To begin.
Okay, thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call to order this committee of the whole meeting of the Council of the Town of Saugeen Shores and welcome everyone in the room with us this evening and all members and everyone watching by the live stream. We're glad everybody's with us. Second item on the agenda is the land acknowledgement, and Councillor Grace has that.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We acknowledge that we are meeting on the traditional lands and treaty territory of the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation, which consists of the Chippewas of Saugeen and the Chippewas of Nawash Unceded First Nation. We understand this land holds immense significance to the people of Saugeen Ojibwe Nation. We appreciate those who live and work alongside us today and who continue the traditions of their ancestors as stewards of the land we are privileged to inhabit. We thank them for the contributions they have made in both caring for the land and in shaping this community. We commit to truth and reconciliation, to acknowledging the truth about what happened to Indigenous peoples because of colonization, and to reconciliation, which begins with each and every one of us. As a local government and public organization, we are dedicated to learning about Indigenous culture, to fostering a better relationship with First Nations and their people, and we commit ourselves to actions that move us forward on a path to healing along with the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation.
Thank you. So third item on the agenda is disclosure of pecuniary interest. Ask any member if you have one of those you'd like to declare at this time. Seeing none, of course, you can do that anytime if you need to. We have no additions, deletions, or amendments. So we're on to item 5, open forum, and we have one open forum request this evening. It's from Doug Longmire. Mr. Longmire, if you want to come forward. And when you're ready, you have 3 minutes, sir. Oh, sorry, Doug, just wait one section. We're just going to turn that microphone on for you.
Thank you. Yeah, my question is mainly for the consultants of the High Street renovation plans, and would like to know if there's any more curb extensions and other facilities they plan on doing. I'd like to see some kind of proof. I've done some research and I haven't come across anybody, any town with the same situation as we do with the angle parking. They all seem to have the parallel parking, and they've made room at the intersections where cars aren't parking, so people can't see coming down the other streets and causing a vision problem for pedestrians. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, so we have no further open forum requests. So now we're on to delegations, and we have 3 delegations, really 1 presentation and 2 delegations this evening. So we'll start with the presentation. We're very honored this evening to have Doug Court. Sorry, we're very honored to have Doug Court here this evening with us. Doug has been awarded the 2023 Field Pumpkin Grower of the Year by the Great Pumpkin Commonwealth. And I'm just looking at this quote from the Shoreline Beacon, and I'll just quote it here. Quote, "The total weight of Court's 3 field pumpkins that survived the growing season and the bears was 437 pounds, just 8 ounces heavier than his runner-up, a grower from Wisconsin. Court's 172-pound field pumpkin was also 3rd heaviest in the world in 2023. Now, as most folks in town will know, Doug is a longtime grower at Port Elgin Pumpkin Fest. In fact, he's one of the founders of Port Elgin Pumpkin Fest. Doug is a former CAO of the town of Port Elgin and was involved right from the very beginning of Pumpkin Fest and has been growing pumpkins ever since. It's almost 40 years now, unbelievably, and really just has become. Doug is not only well regarded in the growing community in our region, but also right across our country and frankly internationally as well. And so, from one pumpkin grower to another, although the pumpkins that I grow are a little smaller than yours, it's really it's just amazingly impressive. The not only the work, Doug, that you have done to grow those incredible pumpkins, but the work that you have done to promote our community and to make sure that we have that great shoulder season event in Pumpkin Fest that really just about everybody in our community loves. So thank you, Doug, for all the work that you do. If you want to come forward, I have a certificate for you.
The mayor asked that I give a few words. Well, Pumpkin Fest is all what it's about. When I was the CAO for Port Elgin, I needed a hobby. And one of those hobbies was gardening. And at that time, I used to live across from Nodwell Park. And at Nodwell Park, it indicated that the Aboriginal peoples also grew pumpkins and sunflowers. That inspired me a little bit more into the giant vegetable world. At that time, that was about 1979. And at that time, I could not even grow a watermelon in Port Elgin. I remember everyone telling me when you move to Port Elgin, Highway 21 is closed half the time due to transitional snow to rain to winds, etc. But as we all know, the environment has changed. And now in this particular area, we are growing some of the giant vegetables of the world. We compete against countries like the United Kingdom, Germany, and by the way, Germany is a major partner in growing in the giant vegetable world. Even South Africa is involved. So that is a world event. And I thank Council very much for inviting me for this award. It means a lot to me, and the community has been very generous through the years. The community has a lot of champions, and those champions have brought Pumpkin Fest forward as a major community event, if not only in Port Elgin, but throughout Ontario. In fact, it competes with all the world sites, even to California, even to Berlin. It's an amazing event. So again, Council, thank you very much. Mayor and Council.
Thanks again, Doug, and congratulations. All right, so now we're on to our second delegation, and it is from Jessica Linthorne, and she's here to give us the Nuclear Innovation Institute update to council. Jessica.
Great, thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's really nice to be in front of council. Nice to see lots of familiar faces, and I'm looking forward to sharing with you today. I have to talk to the NIA about this microphone stand. Okay, there we go. So thanks so much. I'll stay on track here. Looking forward to sharing with you an update on a lot of the good work that our team is doing, and certainly taking the first opportunity to thank the town of Saugeen Shores, Mayor and Council, for your ongoing support. We have lots of partnerships, and I'll speak to a few of those initiatives today. But you'll note the town of Saugeen Shores is listed as a founding member at the NII, and that's because of an agreement we have, and we'll dive into that a little bit too. Certainly want to say thank you to the rest of our founding members, so Atkins Realis, Bruce Power, BWXT, Cameco, ES Fox, Kinetrix, and we have an agreement with the Power Workers Union and an agreement with the town of Saugeen Shores, so we're grateful for that. We also have supporters that help us out: Accenture, ATS Automation, Framatome, and Sargent & Lundy. So here we are, here we sit today. Our vision at the Nuclear Innovation Institute is to have a Canadian landscape that celebrates innovative nuclear industry and an integral part of the clean energy future. So I remind the team that we are not done our work until the Canadian landscape is celebrating all of what we have to offer. So we have a good reach ahead of us and a long runway, and we're really excited about the future. So taking a closer look at the mission of the Nuclear Innovation Institute, we are driving a nuclear voice, an industry voice. We're driving skill development and industry advancement to our members, and we are working closely with communities, other industries as well, and all levels of government. We encourage collaborative engagement, and I want to stress that word collaborative. A lot of what we are doing is in collaboration with community partners, with members of council, with economic development officers, industry partners, and that's a real focus of what we do here at the NII. Industry voice, workforce, and industry advancement. So I'll speak to each of those quickly here. When we talk about industry voice, this is where we have our Bruce Power Nexus Research Center, and I'll talk about that in a moment. But having a close look at research, policy, this is where we're doing some environment work as well. It's a unique opportunity for us to have conversation, to think about partnerships, strategic partnerships. For example, Chad Richards has released, he's on our team, a report called Greening Steel. And it's a report that talks about electrification in the steel industry. And we will get to greening steel with nuclear baseload power. And so doing some of this original thought leadership work is really important to continue the conversation. So that work is happening, as mentioned, at the Nexus, the Bruce Power Nexus Research Center. This is where we'll find the Clean Energy Frontier Program, which you're involved with. We'll find the Southwestern Ontario Isotope Coalition, which you are involved with, and where we are working closely with elected officials also through a plain language toolkit. So a number of messaging on how we talk about waste, how we talk about isotopes, a lot of this really important work to help you and to help us drive the conversation forward with facts and data, but also to help inform that when you're making delegations at Roma or AMO, that you've got good language and support mechanisms to talk about the growth in our region. Workforce development, really excited about this portfolio. This is where we have an opportunity to bring together some of the work that we've been doing and just streamline and talk about workforce and partnership together. We see our STEM education through Explore. So we've got the STEM education opportunities for our children and youth. We've got skilled trades and training where we're working with some community groups. Our energy co-op program sits within this portfolio as well, but then also Advance, which is working with post-secondary institutes. So if you don't follow us on LinkedIn, have a look at what we are doing right now. We're in the midst of a program in partnership with Schulich happening out at our other building near the Bruce Power site, where we're offering a project management course, a certificate in project management right here in Bruce County in partnership with Schulich. So these are the unique opportunities that we are able to bring to the region, again, leveraging workforce development. So whether that means for our children and our youth, for people moving into post-secondary institute, we can do some of that work here now. Also, when we think about upskilling, second career, what are the next opportunities? I mean, I don't know if we all want to know what we want to be when we grow up. So there's always opportunity in nuclear, and we want to make sure that the residents of Bruce Grey and Huron understand that vast opportunity. And as mentioned, this work's happening at the NII Advanced Technology Campus. So if you haven't been to the building, it's a 33,000 square foot space, auditorium space, classroom, meeting room space. It's a fantastic opportunity, again, for the region now to be able to play host to some of these initiatives. Industry advancement. So this is the third pillar of the work we're doing, and this is really where our industry projects happen. So this is when we start to look at process improvement through Kaizen initiative, which is the lean methodology, the opportunity to find process improvement between our founding members working closely with Bruce Power. This is about securing tomorrow. This is ensuring that our work remains on time, on budget, not compromising any safety. For certain, what the opportunity allows is process improvement to ensure continued nuclear, continued clean energy, the growth in the sector, but that efficiency too. So we're securing tomorrow with the work that we're doing with regards to Kaizen. But also a number of AI, artificial intelligence projects are underway as well. So the team is moving some really fascinating work there, and the project committee is part of that discussion, which you have a rep through our agreement with the town of Saugeen Shores. Jill Root has been appointed to that project committee, so she's been participating at that table and has access to a number of these industry projects as well. So one quick correction to this slide, we do, in the second paragraph, it does note that we have agreed to a 5-year lease. We have a 10-year lease, 5 years lease free, waived, the fee has been waived. So I just wanted to note that correction to this slide. And so with our agreement with the municipality, we do have specific deliverables, and you may note that we have been submitting a quarterly written report. So that certainly outlines all the details, and then we are committed to coming in at least once a year. If you want me to come back more, happy to do that. We always have lots to update on. So just a detailed list, I won't read through it, but what we're doing here is just reminding, just coming back to that agreement and indicating what we have been doing and how we are certainly working with the town in a really positive way, and we're excited about the relationship we have. A couple of highlights, and so certainly the town is recognized as a founding member throughout our material. So you'll see the Town of Saugeen Shores logo in publications, on banners, at different events. So we are so appreciative of your support, and you will see that recognized that way. Certainly, you've been hosting your meetings here. I hope that you enjoy the space as much as we do. It's been a pleasure to have you in this space, and so happy to do that. Certainly, Mayor Luc Charbonneau has been appointed to the NII Board of Directors as well. And so, Mayor, thank you for your involvement at the board. It's been really good to have that community perspective and to continue to build the future together. Invitations continue to be circulated, so whether that's coming through mayor and council or to senior staff or others in the organization, we have had lots of involvement. As mentioned, Jill Root is a member of our project committee, and we're continuing to have regular dialogue about community engagement and other industry opportunities. So lots of times there's things that do pop up, and you know, we are thinking, how does this in fact impact our members? And all of that to say, Saugeen Shores is on that list of members. And so you have that exclusive opportunity through the NI as well. A couple of numbers here, just again, recognizing the events that have been happening, the invitations, opportunities as the founding member, and then just some metric on posts and the reach that they have through our social media presence. So with that, I will wrap up, and we're really grateful for the partnership, and thanks for having me tonight.
Thank you, Jessica. Questions or comments from members? Deputy Mayor and then Councillor Grace.
Thank you. And through you, I just wanted to thank Jessica for the presentation and appreciate all of the efforts that you do related to kids. I hear a lot about activity here and also in the schools. And also it's great that you've opened up this facility for community use at various times. So thank you very much for that. And thanks again for the presentation.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Grace.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you. Jessica, thank you. Nice to see you again. I just wanted to give another example of something the NII helped the town with. Back in 2022, early 2022, Chad Richards and the NII were very helpful I was the chair of the Environmental Stewardship Ad Hoc Committee. And one of the projects that we had in mind that was a challenge because we were still kind of semi-locked down with COVID was putting together a virtual open house on helping people realize and understand what their carbon footprint might be. And so the NII was extremely helpful in putting that together. We had over 150 participants. It was a very successful part of our committee's work. And so that's another example of community engagement that was facilitated so well by the NII. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there further comments or questions? Councillor Davinsky.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you to Jess. Good seeing you again, and thank you for the presentation. In the presentation, you mentioned the learning outfit that you have at the NII in Tiverton. And so I'm wondering if that is your educational area, then what is this that we are in right now? What's it used for?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. So in this building, we call this headquarters. My office is here. We have meeting rooms here. We have a number of staff that do work out of this building, some core operations staff. So our marketing and design staff generally are here each day. So between the two sites, you'll see some of the workforce and partnership staff are working out of the Tiverton site. We also have a remote work policy. And so in our organization, we have that flexibility. So we are here in the office or we're working remote. We're at a lot of events as well, and you'll see that if you follow us online too. But certainly what's happening here is a lot of administration. a lot of important meetings. Today, we were fortunate, we hosted a group, a community group that came in to use the space too. So that's always a possibility as well. We appreciate being here. We recognize that the building is accessible, AODA accessible, but also just accessible where we are located. So if there's a community group, we're always open to that conversation. But a lot of what I'll say happens here is more administrative. We are doing some programming here. I believe Georgian College is still in here on Wednesday evenings with some programming. But the space that we have out in Tiverton, it's big. It's a big building. It allows for the hybrid opportunity, in-class, in-person opportunity. Industry receptions have taken place there. We hosted our Clean Energy Frontier Conference. So it's certainly a bigger space, but there's lots of work happening between both sites. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, it does. And does the Tiverton site, is it being used on a consistent basis, much like this one?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, absolutely. It's very busy out at that site. Lots of rentals. We have that opportunity as well for facility rentals. There's great boardrooms. And again, I mentioned the hybrid and the tech capabilities are extensive. And so that space is available as well. And it is absolutely utilized.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
You, Councillor Mayette.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First off, Jessica, just congratulations on your recent appointment as President and CEO of the Nuclear Innovation Institute. It's a great honor for you, and thanks for your presentation. And I just thought I would highlight that the NII and the Sparks Training Center have collaborated, and we're really grateful for the use of the space out at Tiverton. I believe there's some 40 plus individuals who have got their CWB, Canadian Welding Bureau tickets through that collaboration, and many of those are in the workforce already. So it's been a great success, and we hope to see that going forward. Thanks.
Thank you. Anything further? Well, I don't see anything. Thanks very much, Jessica, for coming in. And it's a great honor for me to serve on the NII's board of directors. It's a great board to be on because it gives me an opportunity, a unique opportunity as a member of municipal council to get an inside look at what's happening within the nuclear industry and all of the various things that those industry players are thinking about and working on and thinking about as they look out to continuing with MCR, isotopes, and potentially Bruce C and other things. And there's a huge amount of opportunity in our community and in our region as a result of what's happening in the nuclear sector. And us having the NII here in Saugeen Shores as the headquarters of the NII, I think it puts us at the center of that space and what's happening. And I can tell you a lot of folks from across not only Canada's nuclear sector, but internationally come through this building and through our community as a result of the NII being here. We really are a bit of a focal point in terms of the nuclear conversation worldwide. And much of that is as a result of your work and the work of the NII. So thank you for that. And also I should just thank you directly for your allowing us to use this space for these events while our offices are under construction. It's much appreciated. And I think just another great example of the partnership that we have. So thank you.
Yeah, great. Thanks so much.
Okay, so now we're on to our third and final delegation, and it is from Fred Kuntz and Dave Bollingal, and they're here from the Southampton Arts Center to talk to us about creative arts that brighten our entire community. Fred, take it away.
Thank you, Mayor Charbonneau. Thank you, council members, for accepting this delegation from Southampton Arts Center. I do have a presentation, which just waiting for that to come up.
We're working on it.
But I'll just say, we were here in the spring, Gerald Gunkel and I came in April to talk about what Southampton Arts Center means to this community, why it's important, the challenges we had, how we barely survived the pandemic and are just holding on by our fingernails this year, and why we were seeking a municipal operating subsidy in 2025 and beyond. I'm joined here tonight by Vice Chair Dave Bollingal, board members Joyce Carr and Shalene Nelson. Our center manager, Darlene McConaughey, is here. So what I want to talk about, because this is the time of year when you are in your deliberations on a budget for next year, your business plan for 2025, is how supporting Southampton Arts Center will benefit our entire community. So if we go to the next slide, this is a repeat from spring, and the other slides are fresh, but I just want to reiterate the amazing history that When we started 67 years ago, our founder, Bert Henderson, formed a board that had 3 members of the group of 7 and Alex Colville on it. It's worth remembering every time because that is an amazing thing that happened right here in Southampton. That's Canadian history happening here. So proud of that. And we've been in the art education game ever since. So next slide. I suppose I could advance this myself. We are in town facilities. We're in 2 buildings. And I'll talk about the former town hall first. It's the one everyone notices at the main intersection of town. It's a beautiful gallery. If you've been inside this year, you can see just wonderful art there, produced locally. So we've been doing that for 25 years of the 67 we've been in the Arts Center. And we get 12,000 visitors a year. It was 11,400 in by September. And then we've got some fall events, an exhibit on right now, Shoreline Artists, and a Christmas sales event that'll celebrate all sorts of artisan work here. So we'll hit 12,000, and it's free to everybody, to tourists, to residents, and it's visually beautiful with 40 artists represented there, by and large local, Gray, Bruce, and surrounding area. So every month we have new events, we have receptions, we have live demonstrations of art. We host different communities in town like the Chamber. We had the Port Elgin Rotary there just a few nights ago. And everything is unique and one of a kind. So this is a real gem. The next building and the next slide is the former Mechanics Institute, the former Howe Library, now the Art School. That's where Bert Henderson started things after a short period in the old Bruce Museum on Victoria Street. And we offer more than 120 courses a year. This year, close to 600 children and 400 adults took courses at our school, and the instructors are by and large local. Some come from out of town and stay during the course. It can be a day, it could be a week. And we're doing this from May to October largely. And so there were still courses this month during school PA days. Parents really value that. And it's in all sorts of things from wood carving to photography and sculpting and so on, and even some ad-lib comedy courses for children that were popular. And we're also offering courses across Saugeen Shores, not only in Southampton. So we're at venues like Northport this year, GC Houston past years and coming years, and we're going to Faith Lutheran and so on. So we're all over the community. Next slide. And we're outside of the building too. So, we have paint nights and things that different people ask for. We'll do groups, and we can do that at the gallery. We can do it at the art school. People who have girls' weekends sometimes arrange this by request. And so, we'll charge for that. We'll get an instructor, and people have tremendous fun. We get great rave reviews for that kind of activity. The art bike is everywhere. It's been down at the beach. It's been in McGregor Park. That was this year's jockey, we call it, of the art bike alley. Shoreline Beacon did a story, and that's just free to the public, and it engages families who are going by on the sidewalk in art activities. And bursaries. So not everyone can afford art courses. Some people are, playing it pretty close at the grocery budget, but we offer bursaries to needy families through the schools so that all kinds of children from all walks of life can take an art course in the summer. This opens up new vistas for all sorts of people. We have a lot of fans in this community and beyond. So we have surveys after every course, and we get lots of positive feedback. Our Facebook page draws comments from people. In the arts community, I'm a member of Shoreline Artists too, and we discussed the challenges we were facing at a meeting this September. And all the Shoreline artists said, boy, we don't know what we do without that gallery in town. It's so important to the arts community. Some of them exhibit there, some of them work there. And some of them, just enjoy it. The business community, the manager of the Super 8 at the Chamber After 5 event told me he always has people staying at his motel, and he's not the only one who come here for the art courses. There's a philanthropist there. His name is Merv. He's in Kitchener, but he spends every weekend here in the summer, and he's been a generous donor this year. And we attract people like that who support us. And we have so many great plans. I mean, although it's been a challenging year, we're looking forward and trying to build on this foundation year. So we're going to refresh the gallery space as we do every January and February, close the doors for a little while and renew everything. We have a jury process to renew the lineup of artists. We do this every couple of years, and we get in some jurors, and then we take their advice, and we sign up people on contracts. And again, emphasis on local. And we want to expand the exhibit space on the main floor, returning the popular retail gift store that we used to have. There has been an office in there the last couple of years, but that is a great space just to sell those smaller items. So doing more, and also having a couple of movable walls in the big Henderson room, the main display room, to put a little more art there. And then moving the offices down to the lower level, and also maybe doing more art school courses in the lower level, because that is high demand. We can never offer enough courses, it seems. As long as we can find the instructors, people will sign up, especially the children's courses. So trying to find a little more classroom space right here in Southampton in the town building. And the new catalog will be out in the new year. And we have this grand dream of a big community-wide arts festival. Every August, you know, the Shoreline artists do their art on the fence. We want to think about something that we do community-wide. Join in with them, but do more events. Bring back the famous 50 Little Masterpieces event, the Artropolis event, Battle of the Brushes, and do these things around the community and involve the whole community. Alora does that. We think it could be a great thing about Southampton. Sorry for an all text kind of a slide, but this is the core of our request to you and why we're here. We are a not-for-profit registered charity, and we need support. Other communities have lost their galleries. Hamilton, Kawarthas, Halliburton, Peterborough. Galleries that survive, and it's very tough right now, are those who get some support from the town, like Owen Sound and the Tom Thompson Gallery. We see the museum here. It's a thriving thing. We're lucky to have it here in Southampton. It's supported by the county, which of course means residents of Saugeen Shore too. The sports benefits from town support here. We see what you did at Lamont Park. We see the aquatic center rising up. These are wonderful things for this community, and they're great assets for the whole sports loving community. The arts community is really struggling, but we offer so much. We offer things to parents, to children, to tourists, to residents. We don't charge admission, but it's very hard to continue. We rely to the fullest extent possible on volunteers. We have a good core of volunteers. We love them. But you need a small staff. You need a manager. You need, people who reliably will be there day after day to do things like operate the sales, plan the programs, plan the exhibits. And it's, we had to pay back our COVID loan. We almost had to shut down during the pandemic. We kept the lights on. We had to pay back the federal government this year, left a big hole in our budget. We can't borrow money. We don't have assets to secure a loan. One of our donors is offering a GIC that we could use to secure a line of credit with the CIBC. We're exploring that. But it's just really tough from day to day. And we're just hanging on. We're counting the pennies. So we have all these great plans, and we can apply for grants. But we look to the town to support what's happening in your buildings and what's happening to the benefit of the whole community. If you could find a way to help us, not only in 2025, but on some reliable basis going forward. And we know you have a lot of demands. You have a big business plan to consider. You got to think of the ratepayers, and there's a lot to balance. We recognize that. But we hope you will consider the arts sector in this town a big part of our history, something we're proud of. It's something that benefits the whole community, and that you'll consider us in your plans. Thank you.
Thank you, Fred. So, just right off the bat, and as you know, this will be something, you've made a financial request here, so we'll refer that to our staff and they'll report back to us as part of our 2025 business plan discussions, which are coming up in November. I believe they've already, you guys have been in conversation with them already, so that's already, I think, been worked into their presentations. So council will be discussing this in detail next month. Until then, I'll ask if there's any questions or comments from members, the Vice Deputy Mayor.
Yep, thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Fred, for your presentation, and thank you to you and Dave and all your volunteers for all the great work you do. I know you put in a ton of hours, with the center there, so we do appreciate it. And we talk about the arts in our community, and the Southampton Arts Center's got a rich history, and great work you people do for our community, and we don't, this council over the years has not contributed a whole lot of money to the arts. We support our trails and our arenas and our ball diamonds and soccer fields and all those other community projects. We haven't contributed a whole ton of dollars to the arts. I know we do the the waiving of rent. We've done that for a lot of years, and I think I think you would agree with me with saying that the Southampton Town Hall is a great facility. that the town is offering up to the arts community. So there is that contribution. But I just, and our mayor alluded to the fact that that $100,000 request, we haven't seen the 2025 budget yet, but we know that 100, I understand that 100 grand is in there for considerations. That's a good first step. And I, for one, that, have to take a look at all the requests, of course, see what the bottom line looks at. There's, there's a lot of demands in the budget this year, but I have a question for you. And when you talk about the paid staff, Fred, do you have any paid staff now, or is this $100,000 it would be earmarked to hire a manager basically for the building? Do you have paid staff now?
We have the equivalent of 2 full-time staff. One is our manager, Darlene, who's here, and works full-time hours in the summer and fewer hours in winter, but has to get that catalog ready. And so it's flexible hours, but she's 5 days a week and probably puts in more than that, frankly.
Okay.
Because, it gets in your blood and she just loves the place and we're very grateful for everything she does. Then we have 3 part-timers, 1 for grant development and 2 to work in the gallery who are paid staff.
So one thing of course, in that you'll probably be sending this in when we discuss this at budget in a few weeks' time, actually, your operating budget, and I guess that's something you'd be willing to share with this council and staff, because I mean, when we're looking at $100,000 grant for consideration, I'd like to take a look at the numbers, and so is that something that you as a board could provide this council with?
Absolutely. We're very transparent. Every year we release our results publicly at our AGM, but also when we met on September 23rd with Kristen Schreider, Dave Bollingal and I came in, and also Frank Burrows was there, and Jim. We shared the detailed operating budget with them and a forecast to where we expected to end the year, which was in a deficit.
Okay.
And of course we can't end in a deficit. So the staff hours that I just referred to, we've cut all those staff hours and our operating days through the last quarter this year.
Well, in preparation for that budget discussion, I'd like to see those numbers for sure.
I think that Kristen has them, or we can provide them.
Maybe
as an
Kristen,
update.
Kristen could circulate. I guess my last question to Fred is, with your operating budget, just what are your major, I mean, you say you have a grant writer, which is great, that you're looking at provincial subsidies grant programs, but that sometimes they're not sustainable. You're looking for sustainable funding, $100,000 a year. What are your major fundraisers, and how much do you raise from your major fundraisers?
So we sell memberships and we solicit donations from our members and from the community. We do that through our newsletter, through our website, and when people come in the gallery. And all in all, memberships, donations, sponsorships are maybe $40,000 a year out of a $300,000 budget. We have some very good sponsors, Bruce Power, 3,000-4,000, OPG 2,000, the Power Workers Union $500 this year, unsolicited, just out of the goodness of their heart. So those things help, but when you have, and our main source of revenue is the school. I mean, selling those courses and paying the instructors, that's a net positive. The gallery is more of a loss leader. Lots of beautiful art, but art sales across North America are down a little bit, not just here, but everywhere. So that's why it's challenging.
Okay, so just leading into the budget, so I'm clear heading into the discussion, the $100,000 that's being requested, that those funds would be earmarked towards a full-time manager. Is that the idea?
We have a full-time manager now. I don't want you to think that the 100,000 is for, just making salaries larger. We want to retain staff, and we want to, ensure that we have a gallery manager, an overall center manager, and that, they have close to a living wage. Although people who work in the arts, we accept generally are going to make less than, for example, municipal government or the nuclear center. Like nobody is making 65,000 is what the Bruce County Museum is posting for a new curator. I can tell you our staff make approximately half that.
Yeah, that exactly. So but would there be another net half person added or not then?
Ideally, we would have a center manager, a gallery manager, and then some part-time retail sales assistants on let's say we're open 4 days a week, they might work a shift on the sales desk. But these other funds would support the programming. The Major Arts Festival, we are seeking an Ontario Trillium Foundation grant, but it doesn't look like we're going to get it.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, further comments or questions? Councillor Grace and then the Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you, Thank you, Fred, and all of the board members and staff who are here tonight to support you. The Southampton Arts Center is a real gem in our community. It's something that I think most people in this community are very proud of. And it is part of the destination in our town. People come, that's one of the things that's attractive about our community for visitors. The Vice Deputy Mayor has asked a lot of my questions, and you've answered a lot of things that I was looking at. Do you have any sense of how much Owen Sound provides for the Tom?
I don't know that number. I'm
Okay,
sure it's
I
public.
guess we can figure that out.
Yeah.
I was interested and happy to hear that you've got one staff member who's dedicated to grant development. Are there grants that are available for staff, or is that?
Yes,
Yeah.
Canada Summer Jobs is a grant program that federally that helps us get a couple of kids, let's say, in the summer. We had 3 this past summer, 4 previous years. So that is always a good source for us. The Ontario Trillium Foundation provided a 70,000 grant over the past 2 years to do some web development and enable online sales and sign up for memberships and for courses and so on in art. And we did that web development. But grants like that are typically project-based. They don't subsidize your operating costs. They basically come with a big load of work that you then have to do to fulfill the grant. So grants are a double-edged sword.
And thank you. Anyway, I just want to say again how much I appreciate all the work that everybody does to keep the Art Center going. And I'm really excited by the idea of the festival in the summer of 2025, hopefully. But there are a lot of great activities through the years that you've done. And thanks very much for your work.
Thank you, the Deputy Mayor, and then Councilor Dubinsky.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Mayor. I don't have any questions. I just wanted to recognize the efforts that you put into expanding the offerings for kids. There's an incredible number of kids courses this year. You can hit a mark from age 4 right up to 12. And there's one-offs, one-day programs. There's a series over Saturdays. There's the PD Day, PA Day programs. And certainly my contact has mostly been with Darlene, who's fabulous. But I know that the use of St. Andrew's Presbyterian Church, Faith Lutheran, and the Boathouse has really provided really creative spaces. I don't know where the cooking classes take place, but I know if they didn't conflict with hockey, I would have signed a couple kids up for those too. But I know you did some adjusting of the pricing this year, which was very appreciated by quite a few people. And just the expansion of the offerings, and look forward to what comes out in January for the winter season and next summer. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you, Councilor Dubinsky.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, Fred, welcome. And thank you for your presentation. I will echo Cheryl Grace's comments that the art gallery, the art school are part of the uniqueness of Southampton, and in particular downtown Southampton. As the mayor has alluded to, this will go to our upcoming budget talks, the $100,000 request for this year. Just off the top of my head, if you didn't get $100,000, if you got something less, 50,000, 25, 30, that enough?
We made the $100,000 request because we believe that's what we need to offer a good, solid program and retain our staff. If it's less, and it was less during the pandemic, certainly, we were shut right down for a while. So, we'd be offering less programming. It would affect the bursaries. It would affect staffing retention, frankly. We have 2 people now who are the gallery staff. We've cut their hours. We think they see whether or not they have a future, and they're both planning to go back to school. These are people who've been working with us that we were relying on. So we're losing some good people just because it's been so tough this year. If we can't, get the support that we feel we need, it's going to continue to be tough. There'll be turnover and the programming won't be as robust. So it's a matter of degree, absolutely. Like we understand you've got challenges and you've got to balance all your needs. I'm saying that that would put the gallery and the school on a solid footing to deliver what we think the community deserves. But we can get very detailed about that in a budget and in how we would use the funds. If that helps council, we can work on that.
Okay, and I'll play the Grinch here, but is it something else to think about considering the situation and the environment that you're in now? And that is a token user pay system for all the programs that you're doing, donations, that sort of thing. You've said that all the programming is free.
Not all of it. So when we do art nights, for example, we charge for that. When we had a wedding there this past year, we charged for that. When the Rotary came in, we didn't charge them, but we emphasized our needs, put out the donation jar, and we got $250 from the Port Elgin Rotary. We're not shy about asking for support, as you can see us here today. And we constantly ask for support in every quarter possible. The staff put together a fantastic marketing plan, we call it. It's really a business plan for next year with full of ideas about how to ensure our economic survival, our financial survival, so we can do the good things that we do. And it's full of all kinds of ideas. Like they've really scratched their heads to say, what is aspirational and what's practical and achievable? And so we've got a big list of ideas for all of that, including applying for more sponsorships and adjusting our membership levels and offering membership perks packages for families to take the art courses, to bundle courses together so they get discounts the more they take. Thinking, and it helps that our vice chair is a former VP of marketing and has worked in marketing at companies like Sportsnet and Rogers. He's got a ton of experience in this whole field. So it's a full court press to do everything we can and not just turn to council to solve our problems, but make sure we're doing everything we can.
So is user pay a possibility? Will you consider it between now and the time it comes up?
Yeah, we want to do more admission events, more special events. So if we have 50 small masterpieces or, Battle of the Brushes or Atropolis, there would be user pay for that. We just don't want to put, a turnstile at the front door where you have to pay. We have a donations jar. But those 12,000 visitors, they wander in off the streets. Some see the sign and they just come in, and some are the elderly and some are little families and so on. I think it would deter people if the sign said, $5 to come in. I think the free access to the arts is one of the attractions. And then we try to sell the art once they're in.
Thank you, Fred. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. The Deputy Mayor.
Just one more comment through you. I know that you're looking forward to a juried process starting at the beginning of the next year. I know one of your colleagues sitting beside you back there is very, very up on public art. There may be opportunities, I'd like to think, over the next couple of years with some high street revitalization and some park planning processes for more public art in the community. So please, as you're looking at your juried candidates, keep an eye out for, keep an eye out for more people who are very much into public art. I think that that's an opportunity that we should take advantage of over the next few years here to bring the arts even more out into the public. Thank you.
Here, here.
Thank you. The Vice Deputy Mayor.
Just a quick, Fred, could you just give me those full-time, the positions right now, the titles? I just want to know.
Currently, center manager,
Center manager,
5 days a week.
right?
And then 3 others are part-time. 1 gallery coordinator, 1 day a week. We just cut her back. 1 gallery administrator, 2 days a week. Sorry, 3 days a week. And the funding development coordinator, 1 day a week. So those add up to the other 5 shifts.
So 2 full-time equivalent. Thanks.
Okay, is there any further questions or comments from members? I don't see anything. Well, thank you very much for coming in this evening, Fred. As I said, we're going to have this as part of our budget discussion next month. I say as a proud member of Southampton Arts myself, that I fully appreciate the value of what you guys do. And a frequent visitor to the gallery, and it's a beautiful space and a much treasured space by everyone across our community. And I would certainly say, we're going to have these budget discussions, and you're continuing to work on funding. But one thing folks out and across the community can do right now is become a member of Southampton Arts. Right? Go online and go on your website, look it up on Google, and buy a membership. It's worth being a member of Southampton Arts to show your support that way, and I hope more people do that. I would just note, and I think it's important to be clear as we enter this, that it's $100,000 is a substantial request for the town of Saugeen Shores. You know, would amount to about a 0.5% increase on the taxes to come up with another $100,000. So it's not a small amount of money for us. And so I think it'll take, some, challenging discussions for us around that. I think you've heard a lot of love for Southampton Arts and a lot of desire to do something to help out. And I think that one thing to think about is that when we have in the past, whenever in my experience, we've supported an outside organization financially in terms of operating over a long period of time, we've done so on the basis of an agreement where there are certain deliverables, where there are key performance indicators, where we have the transparency and oversight we need to put that kind of public money, taxpayers' dollars, into any organization, right? So I think that's a thing that that you and your board might want to think about going forward, because I think it's a critical thing for us to wherever we're spending public money, to ensure we're spending it well. So I think that's just something I wanted to put out there as something that I'm interested in talking about going forward. But anyway, all that to be said, we're going to discuss all of this in the budget in a couple of weeks, and we'll certainly stay in touch with you and keep you posted. But thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you.
Okay, so that brings us to the end of our delegations, and we're on to our public meeting now. Let me just switch over here. So next on the agenda is a public meeting for the Landfill Optimization Environmental Assessment Terms of Reference. This is a public meeting under the Environmental Assessment Act to support the development of the terms of reference for the waste management project. If anyone from the public is interested in this project, you can find more information or submit comments via the project website at www.engage.saugeenshores.ca, or send an email to sswmp@saugeenshores.ca and sswmp@geiconsultants.com. So first, we will receive a report from staff, who will introduce the consultant and receive the consultant's presentation. Then we will hear from any members of the public who wish to speak here in person or online. Each member of the public will be afforded 5 minutes to speak to council if you so wish. Then committee members will have an opportunity to ask questions, and I will ask them to reserve their comments on the project and on the recommendation until we have heard from the public. So there's also a staff report for the committee to consider, but we'll consider that after we close the public meeting. So I now declare the public meeting open and ask Colin Saunders, project manager, to introduce the report and the team. Colin.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you. What I'm going to do to start off with is just more of a brief overview of the project to date, and then the requirements of the environmental assessment. The consultants will then be getting into detail as to the projects and the terms of reference and going through that. So the project really was initiated through a long-term waste management master plan that we received in 2020. This plan outlined some concerns or recommendations, and one of them is the landfill only had about 10 years left in its capacity. Knowing how long it takes to go through this whole process, we decided we were going to start looking at it at that time. We retained at that time GM Blue Plan consultants, they're now GEI consultants, to start the environmental process and work on that. The initial part of the project was doing some studies, archaeological assessments, species at risk, that type of thing. We wanted to look at the actual landfill site. Was there a possibility for one of the options would be for expansion? Wanted to make sure that was feasible, and we've gone through these studies and realized that yes, that is something that is feasible, so we can bring that forward as well. The environmental assessment process, it is laid out for us and what we have to do, how we have to conduct it. It's not a matter of saying we just want to pick one thing, we're going to go with it. The Ministry of Environment in the province doesn't go for that, and I agree with it. They want municipalities and staff to look at different alternatives, and they lay out those alternatives that we have to research and look at and say, yes, we want to move forward, or no, we don't. The alternatives, of course, to start one is do nothing. It sounds comical, but really that is the base of what we do our alternatives based on. What can we do alternative to doing nothing? Alternative two in this process is optimization of the landfill capacity at the town's landfill site. So after doing the studies, we realized that that is something we can move forward with, and we're recommending that in the terms of reference to move that to the detailed EA. Alternative three is establish a new landfill site within the town of Saugeen Shores. We've gone through that process looking at this, and there's no support from staff or the consultants at all to move forward in this part. We don't recommend this to go forward in the EA. Alternative four is waste management technologies, so that would be incineration. Looking into that, the volume necessary and the cost of it is just prohibitive. We just can't. Community of our size cannot take that on, so we don't recommend that to move forward. And the alternative five is third-party waste. So that would be trucking. That is something we can look at. That alternative. Is it something we want to bring forward? So those two we're recommending to go into the environmental assessment, the detailed EA. So the website that was alluded to by the mayor, set up, you can go on to the town website and go in and look at all the reports, all the background reports, terms of reference, everything's in there for anybody to view. If you want to read it on your own time. There's very extensive, very detailed reports to be able to give us our backing and our information that we can give to the Ministry of Environment. Of course, so going forward on this, as I alluded to, the parts of the terms of reference we don't want to move forward to. What we're recommending to move on with is the optimization of landfill capacity. So that would be looking at the possibility of expansion. And then the other one is third-party waste. So if these move on to the detailed environmental assessment, that's a process where we will be going through public meetings. We will have public input on it. It's very important to have all that. What research has been done and what the public want to see, and go forward with that. So that will be all brought into detail here with our consultants. So I'd like to introduce them now to bring them forward with GEI Consulting. Matt and Andrea Nelson. Matt will be doing the presentation. Andrea will be here for support for any questions. And of course, I could come up and answer any questions too. So I'll ask them to come forward now.
Thanks, Colin. As Colin said, my name is Matt Nelson. I'm with GEI Consultants, and I've been working on this project with Andrea Nelson. And while I'll be giving the presentation, she'll be available to help answer some of the questions. So Colin mentioned we're here talking about the environmental assessment process for continued waste management planning for your residual waste. The purpose of this EA is really to address your diminishing waste capacity. So the problem is you're running out of landfill space, and now what are you going to do in the long term with your residual waste? So that residual waste capacity that you have now will take you to approximately 2030. And after that, there's going to need to be an alternative. So the EA process is being moved forward to look at those alternatives. In particular, as Colin mentioned, we're looking at the optimization of your existing landfill property, as well as a few other alternatives. So under the EA process, we've defined and the terms of reference. So the first step is the terms of reference, and we need to define the parameters of the study. So the planning horizon in the study will be 40 years. So we're looking at the next 40 years of the town's residual waste generation. We are also considering that the waste will continue to come only from the town of Saugeen Shores. Through that process, we've calculated that about 330,000 tons over the 40 years will be generated. When you convert that into airspace, so how big of a pile you're going to make, that works out to be about 725,000 meters cubed. And that includes some of your soil cover, your daily cover, things that need to be covered during operations. So those are the parameters for the EA process. When we look more specifically to the site, the optimization, then we've considered through all those screening initial studies that we've done, that about 26.3 hectares to the west of your existing landfill site has been delineated as the area for optimization. We've also considered that the new area, the optimized area at your existing landfill would be built with a liner and leachate collection. That leachate collection would go to have to go to a treatment plant. We've also considered as part of the EA process that diversion initiatives will continue to be sought under all options, but in particular that also the implementation of SSO may be triggered over this planning horizon. And so the plan for a study for source separated organics, SSO, would be conducted in 2025. So what does this process look like? A lot of us have already seen some of the information. We've been to the meetings. Right now, we're in the early stages of the process, and we're in step 1, which is the terms of reference. So the first step is to determine the project parameters, which alternatives we're going to evaluate, and what studies and what work. So a detailed work plan of what we're going to do as part of the EA. So we've already had a preliminary draft out. We've had a public information center, and we've updated the draft report and provided it. Once in this TOR process, if you look to the columns on the right there, once we submit the TOR to the ministry at the end of the TOR terms of reference or TOR process, the ministry can either approve the terms of reference, they can approve the terms of reference with changes, or they can reject the terms of reference. Once the TOR is finalized and approved, subject to approval, then you can start the actual EA process. So that's the process where we would do the studies and make recommendations finally about which process we would move forward with, or which solution we would look at. So just in tabular form, a quick look at the TOR process I just described. You can see on the left side of the first 2 columns, that's the work that's been done to date to move the terms of reference forward. We are in that highlighted column. We're looking at the Public Information Center number 2, or PIC number 2, and our comment period is running on this draft that just got issued, is running until November 22nd, and we'll get at the end of the presentation, we'll give people that information to get in touch with us again. Once that notice of, once the TOR is submitted, then that's when the ministry's 30-day review period is triggered. And we're expecting that to happen in early 2025. So once all the comments come in at November 22nd, then that gives us a period to do any final changes we might have. So Colin mentioned the removal of some of the alternatives or solutions for residual waste management. This is referred to as a focused EA. So we're planning to move this environmental assessment forward as a focused EA. And under the EA Act, we can do that where there's a substantial amount of information that's been gathered to date, and where we can reasonably eliminate those alternatives. And in this particular project, we feel that that's been done in 2 cases. So currently, coming into the terms of reference development, we had 5 obvious alternatives to your residual waste management residual waste management. Do nothing is just the baseline condition, so that's always included. So really the four options were landfill optimization, looking at establishing a new landfill within the town, alternative waste management technologies, more specifically incineration, and then the third party or shipping of waste to a landfill owned by others. What's important to note in all of these options, we're talking about residual waste only. And in any of these cases, the diversion initiatives will still be considered. So diversion initiatives will continue to be considered not only as part of the EA, obviously, but through the operation of the town's waste management programs. So as part of this initial screening of alternatives, we started with that waste management report that Colin brought up, and that was received by council in 2020. A lot of work was done there to actually list these alternatives, and what came out as a preferred option at that time was landfill optimization. So optimization referring to optimization of the existing site where you have an existing receiving center, you have existing equipment storage, you have existing property. So the next step was the screening of alternatives. So we looked to screen the alternatives. And two of the alternatives that were screened were the new landfill site and the alternative waste management technologies. And it's important to note, as part of the screening process, it's up to the proponent to actually demonstrate that any options that are screened out aren't viable. And that's where the reporting comes in. So we have prepared what we call, basically, we're using the word screening reports, but reports were completed to assess the viability or feasibility of these two alternatives. So when we looked at the new landfill, the screening report started with a simple desktop analysis to look at lands that might even be possible to be developed from just an initial screening point. So this was a desktop study. There was no field work progressed. The study just started with a policy review, a planning review, and a regulatory review. So you can see on this map, we quickly rule out lots of areas in Saugeen Shores because of the size of the municipality, the relative location of we wanted to have setbacks from existing development. So from the existing developable areas of Port Elgin and Southampton. And then once we get actually out of our developable areas, then we start looking at infringement with our neighboring municipalities. And under current regulation, there's a requirement to provide opportunity for neighboring municipalities with settlement areas, so a defined settlement area. If they have a settlement area within 3.5 kilometers of a proposed landfill site, then they have opportunity to not only comment, but actually approve or not approve a landfill site. So with that level of risk, we screen those areas out. We also had buffers from adjacent municipalities to recognize, and then many other key factors, including land use designations, sensitive features, again, all from just desktop. So the outcome of that new landfill assessment was that even without going into further study, without going to the sites, it was evident that there was not, when you compare it to the alternative of optimizing that site, that the landfill optimization is the preferred route. The possible outcome of that comparative analysis was there was no preference determined, or that a new landfill was preferred, but in this case, it was reasonable to expect that a new landfill would not be developable. So the other alternative, the other option that was screened out was the alternative waste management technologies. Again, this one's, it's easy to talk about just because of the scale that's required to, the scale of waste generation as well as capital investment just wouldn't apply to Saugeen Shores. So those, as part of the terms of reference, again, we're doing the focused EA, and now those two alternatives are screened out. And as part of the TOR that we're submitting, we're moving forward with the three alternatives of do nothing, optimization of the landfill capacity, or third-party export of waste. As part of the TOR and EA process, it's important to note that only landfill optimization is actually subject to the EA. So the export of landfill waste is not subject to an EA because you aren't creating a landfill, you're just shipping it to somebody else's landfill. Whereas landfill optimization triggers the EA process because you're trying to create or expand a landfill. So as part of this TOR process, we talked about some of that early consultation. Some of the public concerns brought up to date have been environmental impacts, financial implications. We've had a lot of discussion about the screening report for the new landfill. So concerns about the new landfill, potential of new landfill sites, taking responsibility for waste generated by managing it within the community. So that was one of the concerns from several people. And the other one is consideration for additional waste reduction initiatives. The other feedback we got was that 62% of the respondents ranked optimization of the existing landfill as number one. And in contrast, less than 10% selected a new landfill as one of their top two initiatives. So next steps. So right now our comment period is open until November 22nd. At that time, we'll take those comments and finalize our TOR for resubmission to council and then submission to the ministry. So we plan to have that formal submission to the ministry in early 2025. And then we have the minister may approve the TOR as we discussed, approve it with amendments or reject it. So the important information for people here tonight is I'll just have this up, is again, if anyone has comments, they can submit those via the Engage Saugeen Shores. That's a great website. You can link to all the reports, all the information, updated information. That website's kept up to date. And so it has the new drafts of the reports and all that information. And if you aren't able to get to that website or just want to email us directly, there are two designated emails at sswmp@Saugeen Shores and sswmp@giconsultants.com. So please feel free to reach out.
Okay, thank you very much. So now we will hear from members of the public who wish to speak to council on this matter. And I do have three folks who've signed up ahead of time, although there will be an opportunity for anybody who's either in the room or online who wishes to speak to do so. But I'll start with the folks who I have on the list. First up, I have Murray Wilson. Is Mr. Wilson here with us this evening? He signed up in advance, so I don't know if Murray's with us. No. We also have Al Wilson, and I know Al is online, so maybe we can bring Mr. Al Wilson in, and whenever you're ready, Mr. Wilson, you have 5 minutes.
Hi, can everybody hear me?
Yeah, we hear you just fine. Go right ahead.
Hi, my name's Al Wilson, and I'm representing our family, and more specifically, my mother, Gwen Wilson, who is the owner of 348 Carlisle Street, a 148-acre property, also known as the Southampton Airport, as documented in Transport Canada's flight supplement. The airport identifier is CPF7. That's Charlie Papa Foxtrot 7. The airport has a paved strip and also has a helipad with an ILS, an instrument landing system, which is used when landing at night or in weather with limited visibility to help the pilot safely land. Our family has owned this airport since 1974. My father, Bob Wilson, who is now deceased, built the runway 50 years ago. His vision was to have a 1/3 mile runway that would enable access to and from the area at any time of the year. As most of you are probably aware, the Port Elgin Airport has many limitations due to it being having a grass runway and is also a wet area. So winter use is generally not possible, and in spring and fall are often too wet. The runway approach is 1331, with 31 or 310-degree approach being used the most due to prevailing winds. This means that using the standard left traffic pattern or circuit, that you join the downwind leg of the circuit with a compass heading of 130 degrees, running parallel to the runway, but just south of the runway. This is basically the property line of the airport and the shared property line of the landfill. While the downwind leg of the circuit, you are at an altitude of 1,000 feet above ground and traveling at approximately 80 to 100 miles an hour. The left-hand traffic pattern allows the pilot to observe the runway for other traffic, people, deer, and basic conditions and prepare for landing. Also during this time, the pilot is going through a checklist of items to prepare for a safe landing. As the landfill has grown over the years, there's been increased bird activity, which is extremely dangerous for pilots and their passengers. If the landfill expands to the north, it will be directly in the flight path, which will increase the number of bird encounters. For those of you who don't know anything about bird encounters, simply YouTube it. There are many documented cases and videos of small airplanes and helicopters. The windshield of an airplane is designed to be aerodynamic and structurally sound, but not to withstand a bird strike. Also operating in and out of this facility is a medical helicopter that services the Southampton Hospital. There are many statistics provided by Transport Canada and the FAA, the Federal Aviation Administration. 90% of bird strikes occur below 2,000 feet above ground level. Again, this is in the direct flight pattern. And I can imagine with the 725,000 cubic meters that Matt had mentioned, you're basically making a hill on the landfill. Birds can and have taken down medical helicopters and small airplanes. If there is a single pilot with a windshield and the windshield is penetrated, many times the pilot can be incapacitated. The FAA and Transport Canada warn about flying at low altitudes near landfills. Can you imagine the medical helicopter attempting to land during an emergency at night or times of limited visibility? And as they are in the flight pattern, the birds on the landfill become scared of the noise and hundreds of them take off and the pilot encounters one or many bird strikes. It would be absolutely devastating. I am personally a pilot and have a Cessna 182 that I've flown in and out of the Southampton Airport hundreds of times. I have had a bird strike, not in Southampton, but in Muskegon, Michigan, where there's a large lake and many seagulls around. And I hit it at night, and it fortunately hit the leading edge of the wing and did not hit the windshield. But it is a very scary, scary situation. There are several cottagers that also use an air service to drop them off at the Southampton Airport or be picked up. Safety is obviously our biggest concern. However, it was a significant investment for my family to build and develop the airport. We would like to see the continued safe operation of the airport for many years to come. By knowingly expanding the landfill closer to the airport that has been in existence for 50 years, And now knowing some of the potential risks, I believe the decision committee needs to reflect and evaluate before moving forward. I have contacted Transport Canada, but I have not heard back from them as of yet. I believe there are several restrictions that you may have to navigate. I know as an airport manager owner, my mother receives many letters. One of them was within the last year of a tower being built at the north end of Port Elgin. So we do get a lot of updates being an owner and a manager. So I guess I had the question that Matt had mentioned that in step one and the environmental assessment, but has anyone contacted Transport Canada to review this plan with them? So that's all I have for now. Thank you very much for your time and consideration.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Wilson. We can look for an answer to that question. We get our consultant to come forward and speak to that.
Yeah, thank you for the comments. We have not yet circulated Transport Canada, but we will commit to doing that. This is, as part of the TOR, we do develop the scope of work and list of studies. So we will reach out to Transport Canada as well to see what work may be required. I would add that you did talk about expansion of the landfill to the north. And we do have we potentially have a figure that would show the area that I described to the west. So through the expansion of the landfill, I would say, and it doesn't obviously preclude any other work that we would need to do with Transport Canada, but just to provide some clarity, the landfill operations would continue to be generally the same as they are today. So we aren't, when I talked about the large volume, that's the total volume that would get put in the ground over 40 years. But and for example, the existing landfill today has about a capacity of 490,000 cubic meters. Now that's been filled up over time. So the operational area over the time of the landfill will continue to be similar size. So we would expect the same behavior, or we could, even perhaps better operational improvements over time. Are we able to get that figure up? Figure A?
We're working on it.
So for other people in the room, obviously the airport property is on the top, the north side of the page, and actually that circular feature in the very top left is I believe that's the helipad. But the area that we're talking about potentially expanding into, and may not be that whole area, but would be to the west. So the existing landfill area is in the red. In the middle of the page, the existing approved landfill, and then we're looking at, for optimization, expanding directly to the west of the existing footprint. So we are hopefully maintaining an adequate setback from that, or a similar setback that's been in place for the last 40 or 50 years to that airport. But we do, I guess I would summarize by appreciate the comment, and we will work to address that as part of the EA process.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Okay, so now we will move on to our next. So we did not have Murray Wilson, so we'll move on to Heather and David Stars, who are with us this evening. Are they? They're not here? Okay. Oh, you are here, but you have nothing to say. Okay, very good. Thank you. Are there any other, so that's all I have on the written, who says, have submitted their names in advance. Is there anyone else in the room who wishes to speak as part of this public meeting? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so this is, just to be clear, I'm calling for anybody who wishes to speak to this now. If I don't hear members of the public who wish to speak, I'm going to turn it over to the members of council who will have an opportunity to ask questions. And then once members' questions are answered, we will close the public meeting. And at that point, there'll be no further opportunity for members of the public to speak. So I will ask again, are there any members of the public who wish to speak to this in the room at this time? Is there anybody joining us remotely wishing to speak at this time?
No, sir.
Okay, I don't see anybody popping up, so we will then turn it over to members of council. Do you have questions at this time? We'll start with the deputy mayor and then Councilor Grace.
Thank you. And through you, I'm not too sure if this is a call-in question or the consultant question. I have a couple, but the first one is, you mentioned that expansion is about potentially 26 hectares. What is the size of the entire site that's public land in that area? And how much of that site are we currently using?
So the existing landfill, the red area is 13.7 hectares. And the approved capacity for that area is 427,000 cubic meters for waste and interim cover. That doesn't include the final cover. Looking into the expansion area, that rectangular parcel to the west is 60 hectares total. The area identified for optimization was 26.3 hectares. However, through the review of alternative methods or, alternative designs, or basically where are we going to put the landfill and how is it going to be developed, that area will become further refined. So basically through the EA process and the review of how we are going to place the waste, what methods we're going to use, we will further refine that area. But that is the area that has been identified through the natural heritage assessment that was done. So through the identification of natural heritage constraints, and also includes the 100-meter buffers from the westerly property limit and the southerly property limit.
Well, partially. Thank you for that. The entire site, though, the land that Saugeen Shores owns in that area, you mentioned about 75 hectares, 60, and then approximately 15 in the existing site. When you head off to the north towards the river, it's a fairly large piece of land, parcel of land that the town owns. I just wondered if there was a measurement in terms of the hectare size of the entire parcel.
Okay, so the L-shaped parcel in yellow is about 80 hectares. And then the white-shaped parcel to the northeast is about 20 hectares. So in total, we're looking at about 100 hectares.
Thank you very much for that. A couple of other questions. From the report, there was a confusion about this idea of a new site. It was mentioned that it's an alternate that won't be further pursued. Is there any potential for the province to tell us that we have to pursue that?
They can, so the province, so the reports will go to the terms of reference will go to the ministry for approval or approval with conditions or rejection. They can come back and say, we'd still like to see you review this alternative through the process. But ultimately through the process, we can further refine that out. We are relying on the ministry to approve the terms of reference as is, and with the three alternatives moving forward.
Thank you for that.
They cannot tell us ultimately what to do. Yeah.
In looking at the 2020 report, it was mentioned in that report that the population of Saugeen Shores went up 16% between 2016 and 2021. It may be perhaps a little bit premature, but do we have any indication? I didn't notice it, it was a 299-page report, but I didn't notice anywhere where there was a prediction on what the population increase will be in the 5-year period, 2021 to 2026. Is there any indication of that somewhere in the report?
So we relied on the DFA studies for all of our projections. So they had a projection from 2016 through to 2042. Based on their numbers, there was a compound growth rate of about 2.1%. And so from 2042 through to 2070, we use that compound growth rate. That was based on the DFA study, or was it Hempson? Anyhow, the most up-to-date population forecast for the town.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just one more question. The idea of third-party trucking to move waste around, I think we do some of that already with specific items, like mattresses, for example. When you investigate that, is it, because I read in the report something about shutting down the existing site and doing this. Is it all or nothing, or is there potential to just expand specific waste categories where they can go off to be reused or recycled somewhere else? Or is the alternate that's being potentially explored in this assessment just complete shutdown and trucking everything out of here?
Well, many of the diversion, much of the waste that's being diverted is trucked out, as you identified. What we are tackling within this process is the management of the residual waste. So whatever is left to either be landfilled or sent off to third party, whether that be a private landfill or an incinerator facility. Does that answer your question?
And my last, and I'll try and keep it as a question. The whole diversion question, I hope we get a chance to discuss that as a council. Certainly population growth is there. There's no expectation that construction and renovation type debris is going to decline. And ways to divert that beyond what's already happening, which some of those things were mentioned either in the 2020 report or in your report. Whatever we can do to further those discussions, that's a good thing too. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. I'll get Councillor Grace, then Mayette, then Halpin, then Vice Deputy Mayor. See if I can remember that. Start with Grace.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you. Thank you very much for the information. My first question is about the incineration option, it would be one of the examples that you discussed for the alternative waste technology, management technologies. That suggestion was eliminated, which makes sense when you read the information, but I think it would be helpful to the public. Could you just give us the facts on why you rejected that in terms of the amount of waste that we're talking about and the expense, the costs?
Yeah, so it's a scale of a economy. So in order to build an incinerator that's going to function and work, it needs to be a certain size. So you can't just build a little tiny incinerator and deal with Saugeen Shores. So the amount of waste typically that you would need to make an economical to build an incinerator would be well over 10 times of what Saugeen Shores produces. So then you would basically have to become a receiver for everybody else's waste. And then you'd have all that management costs. And so it would be the investment would be over 300 million to get the incinerator off the ground. And there's a lot of cost risk there. So there's all those factors. And now you have to start get people on contract and accept all their waste. So that falls off the table very quickly for small, even large municipalities have troubles getting these things going. So
yeah, thank you. I just think that's useful information for the public to hear. My question is about this, I take it, is one of the components of the land optimization option, which would be looking at the feasibility of a source separated organics program. Are we talking about like a green bin collection? Is that what that means?
Yeah, so but I just want to be clear. So the EA process isn't dealing with diversion, so we're only dealing with the residual waste. But outside of the EA, all those diversion initiatives are being pursued regardless. So regardless of which option is selected, even if you picked truck it down the road, you would maybe still consider the source separated organics, which is another name is the green bin program. Yeah.
Okay, and just one thing, do you happen to know is at one point, a couple of years ago, there was a talk of a provincial mandate of municipalities working towards some kind of organics management. Do you know if that's still on track?
Yeah, it's actually been, there's an act that came out, the Waste Free Ontario Act, and the RCRA. So where Saugeen Shores might fall into that program and why the SSO, I think, has been recommended to move forward is there's a sort of a two-step trigger. One is a population greater than 20,000, so between 20 and 50,000. And the other trigger is population density of over 100 persons per square kilometer. And I think right now Saugeen Shores is knocking on the door of both of those. So I think we're just under 100 and you're just under 20,000. So over the life of the landfill, it's reasonable to expect you would hit those markers.
Thank you.
Councillor Mayette.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you. Thanks for the presentation again. Two things. One about the trucking of the waste. I'll just say that I get to see that firsthand because I live on Concession 6 and the sprung trucks from Owen Sound go by my house 3 times in the morning, Jake braking the whole way, and 3 times back in the afternoon. So I'm glad to see that that is one of the least favorite alternatives going forward because it just doesn't make any sense to ship your trash to the megalopolis dump in Michigan, which unfortunately, a lot of communities are forced into that because they don't have what we have. With regards to the map and the alternative sites and those circles that were on there, so your desktop and your 10,000-foot analysis has concluded that anybody who owns land in those sites can kind of rest assured that that land has been deemed unsuitable and least favorite options for a landfill site alternative going forward. Is that what can be concluded?
Yes. Yeah,
Yes.
simply yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
I know some of my neighbors are here and I actually own a piece of property inside one of those circles as well.
Yeah.
And there was quite a bit of, when we met over in Burgoyne there some months ago, there was a lot of concern that somebody was gonna take our land away or take some land away and make a dump there. And that's been determined that not only is this a favorable option, but the land in those circles for a number of reasons, infrastructure, transportation, soil quality, drainage, the fact that we don't own the land already, a whole bunch of things makes it so that those lands are completely unsuitable for a landfill site going forward.
I would say that analysis is so obvious that that's why we're able to demonstrate that it's, for all those reasons you just mentioned, not feasible. So we can stop looking at it.
Right, and then going forward, what we're submitting for the terms of reference to the province doesn't include any of those alternatives.
Yes, there would be no discussion about a new landfill site in the EA if those terms of reference are approved.
So we can sleep a little easier tonight. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Halpin.
Thank you, Mayor, and through you. Is it possible to minimize the operational area of the landfill? In other words, like the active, if you want to say the open land that the trash compactor runs back on forth. with a new landfill or anything, can that area be minimized so that we have less open area, less garbage, and therefore less birds and smell and everything like that? Thank you.
Yes, so yes, the birds are also controlled by covering. So to minimize that area, it's covering practice, but then also there is a sort of a minimum space that's needed based on the way the waste is received, the amount that you're receiving every day, and then the space needed to actually compact it and push it. You know, they just come in with their trucks and dump it in piles. And so you need a bit of space to move, but absolutely operations can be conducted more diligently in terms of creating cells, making sure cover is applied daily, and that adequate cover is applied so the garbage isn't exposed.
Thank you, and through you, Mayor. So the northeast piece of land there that is in the white, that is not suitable for future, or could that be, could you explain what that section, 20
So-
hectares of land is?
It is owned by Saugeen Shores, but yes, that's been ruled out. So there's been preliminary studies that were done to look at the optimization as an option. So we looked at archaeology, and environmental impact study or natural environment studies, and we initiated the hydrogeologic to make sure before, you know, as due diligence to make sure that these things are even feasible. So in fact, even to beside the white area and right up to the edge of the orange has been deemed unsuitable or screened out from development based on natural environment restrictions of significant forest, water features. There's a myriad of natural environmental features that would prevent landfill development in those areas.
And thank you. So that would provide a buffer zone around it as well.
Yes, it's almost 500 meters. It's 500 meters from the Saugeen River, even the reduced, the size that we're proposing to carry forward in the EA. But as we discussed, that could well get further constrained.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. The Vice Deputy
Yeah,
Mayor.
thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Matt Andrew, for your good work. I attended the meeting on June 19th at the Burgoyne Church, and a fair number of people in the audience here tonight attended that meeting with Councilor Mayette, and I were there. And I thought it was a really a good meeting and a solid presentation. And I thought there's some really excellent questions and concerns from the residents too. Burgoyne area, Ripper Road, that there's a circle on that map, you know, that alluded that could be an alternative. So it was a lively meeting, but I thought that the people really, I thought it was a really good meeting. And these kinds of community meetings with members of the public, I think, are really important. And you listened. And one of the questions I had, though, and the council may have to touch on this a little bit, but the Minister of the Environment, with the terms of reference, were you mandated, Matt, to come up with an alternative? And I'm glad, by the way, I'm really glad to see it's been recommended to be removed, because it just doesn't make any sense to me at all. But did you, is that a mandate? Is that you had to show a second site, but now you're pulling it out before it gets to the minister's desk?
So you have to look at all of the alternatives. So, you know, establishing a new landfill site is an alternative for any municipality, any new town. So part of the screening process is, and you see it with the alternative waste technologies, is the first question is it feasible? Is it possible? And so that identifying possible alternate locations was part of the screening assessment for that alternative. And that's where we then brought it into the second step of, okay, we've determined that there's potential. It's not likely because considering that they're class 1 and class 2 agricultural lands and they're in broad areas, it's not likely going to be supported. However, let's compare the 3 locations and see from a, how they compare to the optimization of the existing site. And when you do that, it's very clear
Right.
that it doesn't make sense to move the landfill to an alternate location. So going through that process and looking at that alternative is a requirement.
It's a
We need to
requirement,
Look
and
at all the alternatives, yeah.
I think if the residents had their way, it would have never been in the report to start
Absolutely.
with. But it was a requirement to look at another location. And when this is sent off to the minister for signing at the minister's desk, having an alternative in in the terms of reference in your recommendation, is that going to pose a problem that you have not, you've justified it, why it should be removed, and all the reasons, in my view, are very solid. But is there an opportunity that you may get hung up at the minister's office desk when you haven't shown?
I would say that it's unlikely.
Okay.
This isn't an unusual way to approach the process.
Right.
Is to look at a focused environmental assessment. Lots of proponents will have done various studies in advance of pursuing the environmental assessment
Right.
to make sure that it makes sense, because it is a fairly big,
Yeah.
extensive process.
Well, you build a solid case to have it removed. In my view, it didn't make any sense being there in the first place. But you build a solid case, it's being eliminated, you recommend it's being eliminated, and as Councilor Mayette alluded to, thank goodness. So I thought it was a good meeting on June 19th. I just want to thank the members of the public for, for being there and offering up their comments.
Yeah,
So,
and actually the response to the questionnaire, I think I appreciate the public's response to the first circulation, including the questionnaire. The results of those questionnaire are very much support the elimination of that alternative. And I would say that the ministry is interested in seeing that. So thanks for the participation.
Okay, are there further questions only from members of council? Councilor Dubinsky.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you. Since the two, and I don't know who this goes to, but since there are two alternatives that you are presenting, you hope to present to the ministry, one of them is the transport of waste. Is there do you have a ballpark figure on what that would cost a town the size of Saugeen Shores? We mentioned that Owen Sound rumbles through here 3 and 4 times a day. What would that cost for us to do the same thing?
They're thinking, they're working on it.
Yeah.
Come on up here and let us know.
Get the calculator out.
The going rate is about $120+ a ton. And right now you're producing about 10,000 tons. Yeah, no, meters or tons. Tons, yeah. So there you go. So about 7,000, we'll call it 7,000 tons per year. So there you go. So that's 700,000. So you're $840,000 a year.
Yeah. So, and with doing that, if that was done, what does that do to our landfill? Does it mean it stays static the way it is because all of our waste would be transported? Is that the idea?
Usually you would still have municipalities that do that still have their receiving area. So regardless of what you do, you're always going to have a receiving area for people to go and do all their recycling. You're still going to want to maximize diversion, so you aren't paying to ship it down the road. So you're going to still have your mattress, all that stuff's going to be, your front end's still going to operate. But you would then have a contractor haul it all, just like the Owen Sound example we heard. And they operate, Miller operates their transfer station.
Okay, I just wondered what the ballpark figure would be, and it's a heck of a ballpark.
And then you don't control that. It's market driven, right?
Right.
And then there's other security, maybe they close the border. There's other concerns, right? But yeah.
Thank you for your presentation and for the answers to our questions. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Any other questions from members? I just had one about, so you talk about diversion in terms of the things that, we don't know right now in terms of, we could have an organics waste collection system, but, that's outside of the study. But there are some things, this is a very interesting time in Ontario in terms of waste management, in terms of diversion, and there's some things we know are going to happen, like full producer responsibility, which is going to take effect in the town of Saugeen Shores at the end of next year. I have the sense that there's a lot of uncertainty yet in terms of what that will mean, but I just wonder, do you have a sense at this moment in terms of what you do know as to whether that will have any impact at all on the numbers that you're putting forward here in terms of what we might have to accommodate as residual waste in our landfill? Do we anticipate once full producer responsibility comes into effect that we in fact will have to manage less waste than perhaps what shows up in these numbers, or what?
I don't think you'll have less waste per se. I don't see the stream of recyclables being increased dramatically for a place like Saugeen Shores. The complicated part about the producer responsibility is what to do with the IC&I sector. So right now, a lot of small municipalities are collecting blue box materials, the IC&I sector as part of their routes. Under the new program.
Could you just explain that acronym?
Oh,
IC&I.
So IC&I is the industrial, commercial, institutional. So it's mostly industrial, commercial, because the schools are still going to be under the producer responsibility. So they'll be paid for by the CMO. So under this new system, the municipalities were always included. But now in the future system, all residential systems, the municipalities aren't even included. It's being dealt with by a completely different organization, the CMO, and they have contracts out they took care of all the contracting, and all the producers are supposed to pay for the recycling. But they're only mandated to pay for residential. And that works in a lot of the big urban centers, but all of Gray and Bruce, I'm lumping together with Gray, sorry. They always, as a matter of course, combine their industrial commercial with their residential. So now there's going to be the contractors who win that contract will get paid by CMO just to go around and pick up the residential. It'll be up to the municipalities to say, how do they deal with this industrial commercial people that are on the same route. So they're working through. There is a bit of uncertainty. They are allowing some municipalities to guess. Before they were saying, oh, you have to keep it completely separate. So where they were making contractors, if you contracted separately with the industrial commercial, you would have to go out and get your own separate contract. And of course, one of the fears is that then if they aren't getting their recycling picked up, where's it going to go, right? What's the cost of getting it into your landfill? So that might be a problem. But I think overall, with the initiatives, the goal is that the province is working towards overall a long-term reduction in the recyclables, because as producers become responsible, they're going to have they have incentive now to change their containers to make it more collectible and recyclable.
I guess if I could just summarize, there is some, in terms of the impact of full producer responsibility, the near-term impact might actually be an increase to items entering the landfill. If the commercial waste is no solution is found for the commercial waste, then all of that whole stream may actually end up entering landfill. So it's possible that your numbers, the risk, if the province isn't convinced to amend this system, is that there could be more waste entering the landfill than what you're projecting here. Am I
in the short term? Yeah.
Okay.
I think there's provisions hopefully to keep it out, but it could. We know if people are going to take the easiest path.
Yeah. Okay, fair enough. So that's my only question, and I don't know if there's any other questions. I will ask one more time before I close the public meeting, if any member of the public has any comment that they would like to make at this time. Yeah, sure. Come on up to the microphone and introduce yourself.
So my name is Heather Stars. Thank you for taking my questions or comments. So when you were looking at an alternate site and you looked at the areas, and it was, one of the reasons was that because there was settlement there, among other reasons. So when you are expanding the landfill that's there right now, what consideration was taken into for the residents that are around the landfill that's there right now? So in regards to noise, odor, or contamination of groundwater, because we are to the west, so you're coming closer to us. And in the spring, the water just runs in rivers from the landfill, which is at a higher level. And of course, it's heading towards the lake. So it comes right through our property. And also to the people that are beside us on the corner. There's 2 houses there as well. And we have wells, and that's where we get our water from. So what consideration is being looked at for the residents that are there right now?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll get an answer to that question.
So, through you, Mr. Mayor, thanks for the comments. So as part of the TOR, we're establishing the studies. So the scope of work will be decided, and included in those is a hydrogeologic study. So the more detailed potential designs, setbacks would be established, studies of the groundwater, and a review of the operational plan. The noise impact studies will be done, actually a vibration, dust. We have a list if you go in the TR, and I'm happy to show you after the meeting too. And all those get reviewed by the ministry, and that's done once we move into the EA process. So as we look through where might the site actually sit on that sort of orange square we showed, all those studies would be done to see if there's impacts. As part of that analysis, would be looking at the whole leachate collection system. So the new site would be designed. Currently, it's called natural attenuation. So it's basically a pile of garbage with soil on the ground. But in the future, they'll actually have liners, leachate liners, and then pipes that will collect the leachate. So the leachate is just the water that comes out of the waste, and that will get piped away from the site. So that really helps with groundwater quality, obviously. But yeah, that's it hasn't been looked at fully yet. We started that process, but until the terms of reference are approved, then we'll move all those studies forward. And that EA process will be very similar to this with public information sessions. And those are the types of reports that will be in the EA, again, for you to review and comment. And also the Ministry of Environment, groundwater people, surface water people.
Okay. Thank you very much. Are there, for anybody else wish to speak? If you come on up to the microphone and make sure to state your name for the record.
I'm Rick Matusi. If I see that map correctly, in between the existing in the red and then to the left, that's where the compost piles are, the leaf compost. So is it going to stay or is it going to be eliminated? That's a question.
Okay, we can get you an answer to that question. Looks like maybe Colin Saunders looked like he was standing up. I don't know if you want to let Colin answer that one.
Yeah, it's a good question. If we move forward with that option, yes, the leaf and yard waste is in that area. And that's something we would have to look at. To say we would eliminate it, no. We would be looking at different options of where we could place it, what we could do with it. But it is an excellent program for diversion. And the last thing we'd want to see in the face and buried in the landfill is any of that leaf and yard waste. So yeah, it would be taken into consideration, possibly in a different location.
Thank you for that. Any other, anything else from members of the public before I close the public meeting? I don't see anybody getting up, so we will now declare the public meeting to be closed, and council will consider the following recommendation, that council receive the landfill optimization environmental assessment terms of reference report for information. Are there any comments at this time? No, we don't need, we're in committee of the whole. If you have a comment, the deputy mayor.
Thank you, and through you, I just wanted to thank the Stars and Rick and Al Wilson for their comments. Particularly from Al, I didn't know some of that activity at the airport was going on, so really appreciate his contribution. My comment is, we've been preparing for this over quite a few years, and so it's unfortunate that we're a little closer to the immediacy of having to do something, but we have been preparing for this. So I just want to acknowledge that's been going on for every term I've ever been on council. But when can we have, and maybe this is a question for Colin or a comment that Colin can comment on, when is the right time for us to have a big conversation about diversion to play into all of this? Definitely, we have capacity issues, but, one of the comments that somebody sent in, and if I'm quoting somebody who's here, one of the members of the public said, less items to the landfill is a win for the whole community. So diversion means that, we've got less stuff going in there. And Councillor Grace has spoken now tonight and also previously about organics. A number of other members of council have spoke about diversion things. The construction and renovation business is not going away. There's a lot of material there that could potentially be reused. And, we tried a little experiment with a reuse trailer. I don't believe it's still in existence, but, another member of the public said that, there's people in this community who like to quote unquote pick. But we don't, so a comment about when to have a diversion conversation, and also perhaps a comment on why it's so difficult to realize something where there can be a picking opportunity. Because, I remember a discussion about that in the past, but the difficulty of once it goes in, it's got to stay in. It can't go in and then be looked at and somebody take it out. And why is that? Thank you.
First of all, as far as diversion, I think one of the bigger things we can deal with is source separated organics, and that'd be the green bins. It's something we've putting forward in next year's business plan to have some funds to start looking at that within our community. We've been working at it at the Bruce County level for a few years at different lower tier municipalities and really haven't got traction. It's a project I would really personally like to see move forward. When you look at statistics, you're looking at 25 to 30% of the landfill waste is source separated organics. There's no way we would divert all of that, but we can with the pickup program divert more of it. We've got our green bin program. We've got our kitchen recyclers, a program that started up. So those type of diversions. I think what we need to look at is what you call the low-lying fruit, the ones that's going to make the biggest impact, and that would be one of the bigger impacts. That's why we'd like as staff to move forward with that next year. That would, of course, would be separate of this EA process. That's strictly operations, but it's something that we'd like council to consider that, yes, we need to move forward. Just looking at that, can we do that program here? As far as the picking, the other municipalities have tried it, and it was tried here a while back. It's difficult to administer. It's difficult to make it work. It's something that still can be looked at. I think we really have to look at outside of the box of any diversion techniques we can do. We're coming to light on this and looking at it, and then just having to expand this landfill or optimize or truck the garbage away, like the residual waste away. You know, it's a big project. It's a lot of money to run these landfills, and it's a lot of money to expand them. So the more we can divert, the better it is. Absolutely.
Okay. I think, just to comment to that, I think we're gonna, this, as I said just a minute ago, think the whole landscape is changing in terms of diversion in Ontario in the coming couple of years. And one thing that should happen is that we should have some money left, because the cost of diversion is supposed to come off our books and be put on the books of producers, as as is happening with all municipalities. And so there may be opportunity that hasn't existed up till now to do new things with diversion that we haven't done, like source separated organics in partnership with other municipalities. Still think it would be best at a Bruce County level to do that. Although perhaps we're the one municipality most under pressure in terms of landfills, so others are less interested, perhaps. But there's more opportunity coming up because of full producer responsibility. So I think over the next couple of years, I think there's going to be good opportunities to talk about, you ask when to have that conversation. I think that time is coming up soon because of the changes that are happening in the sector. So, yeah, some good opportunities. And I would just say too, and just to dovetail on the deputy mayor's comments, we have 250 acres there of land at the Southampton landfill, only of which only a little less than 30 acres of it is being used at the moment, which has done us. I just noticed in that report there that the Southampton landfill opened in 1965. It's coming up on its 60th anniversary. We'll have to have a cake. But it's served our community for 60 years. We're making plans to have it serve our community for 100 years, 40 more years now. And still, even at that time, it will less than half of that total overall acreage will have been used. And so we have made good plans. I've been fortunate to be on this council as we acquired land around the landfill site. As the deputy mayor said, we've been planning for this for a very long time. We're in good shape to be able to do this. And this is, regardless of what may have taken place as part of the work to date, this is the only location to have landfill in the town of Saugeen Shores. There's no other place to do it. We've been planning for this. It's any other location is, lunacy, right? And so this is where it's meant to be. We've planned for it to be here, and it's going to serve our community for 100 years, and we'll have the potential to go even longer than that. So anyway, appreciate all the work that you folks have done, and looking forward to seeing this advance so that we can get this landfill expanded and have it continue to serve our community. So you've heard the recommendation. I'll ask all in favor. It's carried. All right. So now we are, well, you know what we'll do? We've been at this for 2 hours. Let's take a 10-minute break at this point. We'll reconvene at 8:45. reconvene this thing. So if we can get everybody to come back in and take your seats, we're going to get started again. So we're still waiting for the clerk. Hopefully, she's not too far away. Oh, there she is. Okay, so we're going to reconvene committee of the whole now, and we are on to reports of municipal officers and committees and 8.2 staff reports. And the first one, 8.2.1, is public engagement comments and feedback on High Street reconstruction and cenotaph improvements project. And so this will be presented to us by the manager of engineering.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, and through you to the council. So this report is to present to council the narratives on comments and feedback from the public and other community partners on the proposed concept design for the High Street reconstruction and cenotaph upgrade projects. So we have our consultant attending online through Zoom, Victor Bodenau. So Vic actually will go over to the findings and kind of summary of the public feedbacks and comments.
Good. Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, we hear you.
Yes.
Okay, great. Hello, Mayor and councilors. My name is Vic Bodenau. I'm an engineer with the Burnside in Collingwood, looking after the design of the High Street revitalization. Unfortunately, H.T. Lamb, who's our landscape architect, is not feeling well and has asked me to present his topic tonight on his behalf, and he sends his apologies. So what I'd like to do, if you can see my slides, I'll start now. If you can give me the opportunity to get through the slides, we'll open up for questions at the end. So the High Street revitalization project envisioned an outcome that would provide a balance between safety and convenience for all users and modes of travel, as well as incorporating design upgrades to enhance the vibrancy of the downtown core, complement existing business uses, and encourage other opportunities. R.J. Burnside was hired to further the concept created by the Southampton Business Improvement Area by not only applying engineering design, industry standards and practices to the plan, but to also solicit further feedback from the community in developing the best fit solution. The end goal is to incorporate improvements for pedestrians, cyclists, cars, and deliveries within the downtown core that achieves positive change for the local residents and businesses, but also to help make High Street a year-round destination and enhance the visitor experience. The scope of the project also included upgrades to the cenotaph and consultation with invested groups and the public. A public information center was held on July 4 from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. at the Bruce County Museum and Cultural Center. The PIC was advertised on the town webpage. Notices were also hand-delivered to the properties within the downtown core and emailed to external agencies and the mayor and councilors. The residents were provided the opportunity to review the preliminary design plans and talk one-on-one with the project team members. 110 people signed in at the meeting, and writing stations were made available for completing comment sheets. Overall, the PIC was well attended, with lots of in-depth discussions taking place with team members, councilors, and amongst the residents themselves, talking about the positive aspects and potential negative impacts of the proposed design features on the downtown users and businesses. Following the PIC, the town webpage was updated to share the information with the community and provide opportunities for further feedback. The community was provided with 5 platforms to express their opinions and preferences on the preliminary engineering design that was presented at the PIC. Burnside and town staff were then tasked to collect the feedback from the different sources and channels and carefully consider the comments and analyze them in a consistent manner. The data was then summarized for the purpose of now sharing the results with all stakeholders, including general public, community interest groups, and council. Our intended strategy is to make informed decisions that drive meaningful action for making positive, practical, and effective change downtown. Comment sheets were collected between July 4th and 25th. 58 sheets were submitted. Most were completed and submitted at the PIC. Emails were received by the town in Burnside from July 4th to September 4th. 63 people submitted emails. Comments online. The public was provided with a comment form on the town's webpage using the Engage Saugeen Shores social pinpoint platform. Feedback was received during the period of July 1st to July 30th. 180 submissions were received. Survey questionnaire online. The public was provided with a questionnaire on the town's webpage using the Engage Saugeen Shores social pinpoint platform. There were 4 questions that were requested about how people experience High Street and what improvements could also help if it became a year-round destination. The questionnaire was available from August 24th to September 4th. 111 people completed the questionnaire. A flash vote survey online. A flash vote survey solicits community input in 48 hours on any topic. The town posted a questionnaire consisting of 5 questions about High Street, including how often people visit and how they travel, concerns with any of the existing conditions, and ideas on how to improve the experience of the area for both locals and visitors. The questionnaire was available from August 20th to August 22nd. 889 people completed the questionnaire. Developing a best fit design solution is a process of designing with rather than designing for. And this approach is what Burnside was hired to do for this project. It's a balancing act between evaluating design options and competing concerns, establishing compromises, and finally developing a holistic solution that addresses the needs and desires of the community. The analysis involved assessing the feedback collected from each individual platform that was made available to the public. Although each provided different points of view on the various design features, the outcome was consistent with the feedback we heard in person at the PIC. Below is a summary of our analysis. There are 3 prevalent topics and key takeaways to focus on moving forward with the design, including parking capacity, road safety, and streetscaping and sidewalk upgrades. Parking capacity. This is what we heard. A majority visit downtown more than once a week, 2/3. 90% of people drive when visiting. About half the people usually find available parking within a block, can't find available parking within a block of their specific point of destination. Many people suggested that too many parking spaces are being removed to accommodate the new road design. The number of curb extensions needs to be reduced where they impact parking most. Accessible parking is important, and there needs to be more than there is today. Designated motorcycle and scooter parking is a good idea as long as it doesn't replace car parking. Road safety. What we heard. Always stop control is well supported, provided no additional stop conditions are added between intersections. Designated loading zones would help keep delivery vehicles from blocking the through lanes. Cycling delineation on the road and signage would encourage drivers to slow down and be more careful when backing out of parking spaces. Pedestrian crossings at intersections should be made safer and more visible to drivers. Reduce posted speed from 40 kilometers to 30 kilometers. Road repairs are required. Streetscaping and sidewalks. 1/3 of the people also walk and or bike to the downtown core. Sidewalk repairs are required, and we need to make them look better. More outdoor seating and benches. Add trees and other beautification upgrades, and more bike racks. Consultation with the BIA. On September the 5th, the design team and town met with the SBIA committee to present the feedback. The results are what the members had anticipated based on the feedback they were receiving from the public and business community following the PIC. This meeting provided a step forward to mitigate the negative issues while still needing to make positive changes for all types of users and modes of travel and improving beautification within the core. This is what we heard. There's a strong message from the community that the opportunities for parking on High Street are already limited, and design changes need to be made to mitigate the loss of parking spaces. There's also a desire to make streetscaping upgrades, including street furniture and landscape and other improvements, including repairs to the sidewalks and the road. So what do we do next? The design is being modified by Burnside and town staff to address the main concern of loss of parking spaces, but not without focus on improving the experience for all users in keeping with the overall vision for High Street. A presentation will be made to the BIA at their annual general meeting on November 5th. We will be seeking an endorsement from the BIA before presenting the final design at the council meeting on November 25th. The revised plans will be posted on Engage Saugeen Shores in early November. Cenotaph upgrades. The Cenotaph site forms part of the High Street project. The purpose is to review its representation of the Southampton community members who served and sacrificed in the theater of war. This feature element marks a period in time of conflict and serves as a reminder to commemorate a remembrance of their sacrifice. The memorial features were constructed by returning veterans in 1958 and recently cleaned and repointed by the Legion's volunteers in September 2024. R.J. Burnside was retained to investigate the life cycle of the cairn and cross in their present location and investigate the desire of the community regarding this feature. The end goal is to obtain instructions from town staff through council direction on where the cenotaph and features can be upgraded through meaningful public consultation and input from the Legion Branch 155. At the PIC, Burnside showed the following 4 proposed versions of the cenotaph elements and site for review and discussion. Option number 1 was to rebuild, restore the existing cairn and cross. Option 2A was proposed 2 stone columns. Option 2B were 2 stone columns including the existing cairn and cross. And option 3 was to rebuild and restore the existing cairn and cross with a memorial wall. An idea to set the memorial features back from the front of the median, allowing for a larger space for reflection in the form of a forecourt with protective bollards was also presented at the PIC. This would only be accommodated in design if the cairn and cross were to be rebuilt. The general verbal discussions and comments received were primarily focused on the restoration option of the current Karen Cross. The results of the formal written feedback and signed petition in the following section supports the public's desires for the cenotaph features. Here's the feedback. At the PIC, the community was provided with the comment sheet, to document and quantify their opinions and preferences on the proposed 4 cenotaph options. Burnside reviewed the feedback. The summary was shared with the Legion's president on September 10th in the presence of town staff. The intent of this report is to formally share the PIC results with council to obtain instructions through town staff to advance the cenotaph project in a defined direction and in coordination with the High Street revitalization design. The summary of the PIC is as follows. Comment sheets. Comments were collected between July 4th to July 25th. 91 sheets were received. During that engagement period, a Southampton cenotaph preservation petition was initiated by a resident group. A total of 577 signatures were collected and shared with town staff. The petition was to preserve and restore the Karen Cross its existing state. Analyzing the feedback and what we heard. Doing the right thing was a general message received through verbal interactions at the PIC, as well as the comments received to develop a respective solution that addresses the desires of the community as a whole. The analysis involved assessing the feedback collected from the consultation process made available to the public. Below is a summary of our analysis of the feedback from the 91 returned comment sheets. Option 1, 49%, with a preference to rebuild, restore the existing Karen and Cross. 23% favored the proposed 2-stone column design. Only 2% favored the 2-stone column design and keeping the existing Karen and Cross. And 26%, in favor of rebuilding the existing Karen and Cross with a memorial wall. So we got lots of feedback. This is a long list. I'll quickly go through them, but people were very passionate about what they wanted to see and how they wanted to see this move forward. They wanted to see the Karen to be rebuilt, as it is to remember the men who had built the cenotaph and gave their lives for freedom, preserves the history and shows their respect and honor. There were comments regarding the removal of the illuminated cross, as it is historically inaccurate. Canadian soldiers fought for country, not religious reasons, was another comment. Lots of non-Christian members of the community as well fought in the war. Enemy soldiers were also Christian. So those all related to the cross. Some said that we should consult with living family members of those names on the cross, at the cenotaph. Safety concern with having enough space to stand and reflect by the cenotaph. Benches in behind the cenotaph for meditation and reflection. Incorporate the cross with the Karen instead of standing illuminated cross, or use different symbology such as wreath or of maple leaves. Memorial wall is a great idea and a way of recognizing the people who gave their lives for peace. Consider involving the First Nations stonemasons to rebuild the Karen using the drywall method. Keep the cross as it represents most things that are not religious. Contemplation, garden added instead of forecourt for reflection. Only 8 of the 58 Saugeen Shores men have their name on the Vimy Memorial. There's an opportunity to use the cenotaph to add the missing names. On September 10th, the design team and town staff met with the president and 2 representatives from the Legion to present the feedback. The results provided for us a step forward for the cenotaph. What are the next steps? There's a strong message to retain the cenotaph features in their present forms in composition with refurbishment and updates to the plaque contents. On September 20th, a structural engineer from Burnside assessed the conditions of the cairn and cross and reported back that the cairn appears to be stable and only requires some additional repair and maintenance. The design team and town staff will make any final adjustments to a revised design following this council meeting. The plans will then be presented to the Legion's president on November 5th. We will be seeking an endorsement from the Legion before presenting the final design to council. That concludes my presentation, and I'm open to questions.
Okay, thank you very much. So there is a recommendation that council receive the public engagement comments and feedback on High Street reconstruction and Cenotaph improvements project report for information. And I just, before I open it for question and comments, just remind council that we're going to receive designs on November 25th for both of these items. And at that point, I think we'll have obviously probably a spirited conversation about what we get presented to us. For this evening, we're just receiving this feedback from the public, which is good feedback. So I just wanted to make that clear. We'll have an opportunity to give direction on both of these elements of the High Street project on the 25th of November. But are there questions or comments at this time related to the report? Councillor Grace.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you, and thank you, Rahul, and thank you, Vic, for that. I just wanted to make a couple of comments. It's just an extraordinary level of public participation. The numbers of people who participated in the public information session, the various types of participation. I mean, 889 people participating in the flash vote online survey. It's just tremendous, and I wanted to thank everybody who participated in that. So I got the impression from this report that the design team and town staff may be taking information away from us to make some final adjustments. Is that true? Are we allowed to say some things that?
I don't know what they can say tonight, but what has been reported to us is they've received this feedback and they are reviewing and revising the designs on the basis of that feedback. Maybe some comments, the manager engineering.
Thank you, Vic, and through you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I think on the next step section, if you just have a look, we'll make some changes based on the feedback and comments we received, and we will get back to SBIA, and also we will be coming to council on November 25th.
Okay, thank you. I also wanted to thank the Southampton BIA. Their committee worked incredibly hard on this for a long time, and I think it's been a difficult process for them, and I wanted to recognize their volunteer devotion to their community and to the downtown of Southampton, and that they, I believe, only had the best interests of the community in mind. I just, in terms of the cenotaph, I also want to thank the Legion and the members in particular who I saw out there working away, cleaning and maintaining, and on the current cairn and cross. And thank you very much for doing that. I was surprised to read the information in this report about the fact that the structural engineers from Burnside consider the cairn to be in pretty sound shape, because I had always thought that the reason why a new design was being entertained was because the cairn was basically not able to be, to be used in its current form. So I don't know if you want to respond to that, but it's just, I was surprised and I guess pleased to some extent.
Yeah, so through the mayor, what we heard from our structural engineer that there's clearly some failures on the surface of the feature, but what he assessed and potential if there was any potential movement, it seems to be very minimal considering how long it's been there. And so the determination was that the foundation, I think it's a slab type foundation, seems to be holding well. And I think before we invest too much money into reconstructing it, it might be worthwhile doing a little bit more invasive inspection. So his inspection was strictly from a visual. I know the Legion has, taken upon themselves to do a lot of restoration work on it. But I think it would be worthwhile to maybe have a meeting on site to consider what measure we could make to maybe peel back some of the island and have a look more so underneath the cairn before we proceed further.
Thank you. So the jury's still a little bit out in terms of the integrity of the structure, I guess.
Through the mayor, I would say yes.
Okay. And I also want to thank the members of the Cenotaph Committee for all the work that they put into the research. I mean, it's clearly a very important feature of our downtown. For me, one of the most important things in terms of vision is the view, trying to keep as unobstructed a view as we can of the lake and the flag, because we have one of the, if not the most beautiful downtown in Ontario. And I know I'm biased, but I've also heard this many times from visitors. I mean, I asked one woman who'd moved to Southampton about 8 years ago or whatever, who had no real ties. Why did you come here? We drove down, we saw the view, we said, we have to move there. So, I mean, that's one of the most important things. Of course, safety, user accessibility, and supporting the businesses in the downtown area. All of those are very, very important as well. And so I look forward to what's coming back to us on November 25th. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comments or questions? Councillor Mayette and then Councillor Davinsky.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you. After having read through all the comments and looking at the designs as was previously presented and as what have subsequently been revised, and in follow-up, I contacted the president of the Southampton Rotary to clarify his statements, because in his letter, it could have been construed a couple of different ways, but I clarified that their $15,000 donation was based on the design that was originally presented to them, which was the 2-column design, not the refurbishment of the cross. And when I was first presented with that 2-column design, I was actually excited about it. And I'm not a resident of Southampton, but I do know that a lot of research was done in that design, and it in some way mimics another monument. But having a cross on a war memorial is actually fairly uncommon, when consulted with Monuments Canada, which are primarily the experts on monuments and memorials across the country. And in fact, I was just in Ottawa last week, and I was at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier, and there is no cross depicted on that monument. It has statues of soldiers, and it's very moving, and there are, the inverted sword and the symbols of the soldiers who gave their all, because a cross is not a prominent feature on those or many, even the one in Port Elgin. There may be symbols of a cross that show a graveyard, but having a cross as the central feature is really not common. I won't go as far as to say it's not appropriate, but it's not common for a memorial. So I was excited about that, and it's too bad that the support that Rotary had put forth, $15,000 donation, they're pledging they're going to pull that back if the two-column design is not the one that is chosen. And quite frankly, I can't blame them. They were presented with a design. They felt enthusiastically enough about that design to put their money behind it, and that has altogether changed. And so I'm a little bit disappointed from that. As far as the parking goes, and I think the less change, the better. The angle parking is iconic to Southampton's beautiful downtown, and I think it needs to stay. But that's just my thoughts on it, and I hope we have a great day for our memorial ceremonies on November 11th. Thank you.
I just want to clarify that as of now, we have no new designs. There are no designs. So I just don't want council to get out and start making comments that this has changed or that has changed, because we do have that letter from Rotary. And at this moment, council doesn't have any designs. Council hasn't discussed any designs. There are no designs. So we don't know what's going to come, just to be clear. Councilor Dubinsky.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to be transparent, I am the council rep right now on the Southampton BIA and have worked hard with the BIA on this project. And it was a good education, both getting it done and then people screaming in your ear because it wasn't what they wanted. But that comes with the territory. I've come to learn. Many people didn't want any change at all. But change is inevitable, and thank goodness the majority of the people that have written in comments and so on are fairly positive and is exactly what the BIA is trying to do. Councillor Mayette mentioned the angled parking. Of course, we should keep the angled parking. What we need to get rid of, and I'm sorry, what we need to get rid of is the bump out. Not the bump outs at the intersection, the bump out between Grosvenor and Huron. Get rid of that one. Don't put any in the core area, and do not put any in the following block between the Highway 21 and Victoria. No bump outs in the middle. That will could bring back 10, maybe 12 parking spots. Maybe 12 parking spots. And well placed as well. So that's what I would suggest. If no decision is being made, when do we do that? November 25th?
Correct.
Okay, so you're bringing, just so I understand the procedure. Rahul is bringing back a final report, are you, sir? Or did you say a final report will come in January? Sorry, don't mean to confuse the issue.
Thank you. Thank you, and through you, Mr. Mayor. So, Vic will go to SBIA AGM with a draft final one.
Yes.
And whatever the feedback or comments we will be receiving on the draft final one, we'll try as much as we can to accommodate them. Then we will come back to council with the final design on 25th
On the
of
20th.
November. Yes.
And yet we're not making any decisions here, like the bump outs. I've already lost because that's nowhere in here. And I assume it's going to stay in. I'm only one vote anyway.
Sorry.
Am I confusing the issue?
I just wouldn't make any assumptions this time, Councilor. We don't have any designs, right? And so
Okay.
on November the 25th, we'll receive some designs. They will be, like staff has taken into account what we've heard from the public and then also the professional opinion of our consultants and their own professional opinions, and they'll bring us a set of designs. that accommodates all of that. And my anticipation is there will be some changes from what you have seen so far, because the public is looking for some change. But we don't know what those changes will be. We'll know on the 25th of November.
Will there be any, okay, then through you, Mr. Mayor, will there be any changes after November 25th?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, if council recommend any changes, we will also try our best to accommodate that.
Okay,
But as you said that you are a member of SBIA, so and I hope you will be at the AGM, then I think you will see, you will have the opportunity to see some of the changes there. Okay.
thank you. And I'll probably bring this up at the AGM as well. In any event, a lot of people have worked very hard as far as the cenotaph goes. I'm a fence sitter on this one. I've seen the work that Harry and his group put together, and it looks far better than it has before. Do we need the columns? My jury is still out on that. So, but do we need the cross? No, that's one area where I don't agree with having the cross there. But if it should happen to stay there and be lit, then I would like that cross to be on a timer so that it is duller, if you will, during the nighttime hours for the residents in the immediate area. But that's all I've got to say right now. I look forward to whatever's coming forward. And I'm just so proud of the BIA. I think this is the furthest we've got in many years on this subject. And I'll tell you, we've got a dynamic BIA that has worked very, very hard on this. And my thoughts go out to them. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you for the comments. We'll get the deputy mayor and then the vice deputy mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And just to echo the end of Councillor Davinsky's comments, I think we are a little bit closer than we've ever been before to really making some solid investments in downtown Southampton over that 4-block stretch that will have meaning for the next 50 to 100 years. Since the topic tonight was about the public feedback and responses, I just wanted to say that Raul will recall the meeting at the museum was very well attended and very loud. And as somebody who was there for almost the whole duration, the passion that came across from people who have lived in Southampton for an awfully long time, people who have visited Southampton for an awfully long time, or people who were recent visitors or recent people who've moved to town was just incredible to witness. And it was good that this report reflected an awful lot of feedback coming in via email or survey responses in various fashions. Reading through all of the comments on the flash vote survey, it was really obvious that when it first was, we don't want any change, no change, no change, no change. Then you start reading the comments and people did pick up on the idea very obviously, even though they would be hesitant about change, they could see opportunities for benefits downtown. And so I like the way that Burnside has presented their report tonight to start focusing on the idea that it's positive change for residents and businesses. It's about enhancing the experience downtown for everybody, not just visitors, and to make it a year-round destination. Because I think people, once they got over an initial kind of shock, most obviously related to parking, they saw opportunities to improve the experience downtown. So in reading through all the comments, that was obvious to me that there was an awful lot of common ground about the sidewalk needed to be replaced. There was problems with crossing the street at various intersections and that sort of thing. I hope has been picked up. I get the impression from this report that those kinds of things will show up in some adjustments to the design. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what comes next. I think we're the closest we've ever been to making some solid investments. The cenotaph is an important part of this. And again, just recognizing the way that the community responded to that. It's admirable that people care enough about something in their community that they react. And I applaud that kind of participation. So this report to me represents something that I hope we see more with we see the passion come out in various ways for people who don't like something, people who like something, but people who are also interested in just, seeing benefits come from activity, because most people realize that we're growing and we can't stay the same, but we want to protect and keep what's worked and just move forward in a positive way. So I find this report incredibly positive, and I look forward to how Burnside has taken this kind of feedback and will translate it into some adjustments to the design that we've seen. And it's not just about parking, it's about a whole lot of other things, but angle parking is relevant. And so hopefully that'll be in this revised design, most definitely. But I think people reflected that they wanted some benefits to happen. And so I think we're going to see that too. I hope so anyway. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Deputy
Thank you,
Mayor.
Mr. Mayor. I just, I think we need to learn from this process, I think, because I kind of like the two-column format when it was first presented 6-9 months, a year ago, I think it was. Now I can't remember how long ago it was, but I was surprised. I really was surprised. And the 49% option one, basically leave as is, just repair it. But the public has spoken, I suppose, and I know we're not making any decision tonight, but 577 people signed a petition. One of the options was, rebuild and restore the existing cairn with the memorial wall, which I thought was a really good idea. A memorial wall for a cenotaph, to me, I think made a lot of good sense. That scored really low. So what scored high was just rebuild, restore the existing cairn and cross. I honestly was very surprised by that. But I'm not a resident of Southampton. I don't have the history that our deputy mayor has and others have. So I maybe misread this thing from the beginning. When the Cenotaph Committee presented the idea of the two columns, I liked it. But however, if that's not what the community wants, then yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing your new designs. We spent a lot of time on this. We I think we need to learn from this in that, maybe obviously there wasn't enough community input from the beginning, perhaps. I don't know, but I guess I thought there was support from the Southampton Legion way back, but I guess there wasn't, and so maybe there's been some errors made along the way with seeking the input from Southampton Legion, who I thought did support, but now I found out they didn't. So I'm looking forward to seeing the designs be real. I think we need to learn from this though, because we spent hours and hours on this as a council reviewing those designs. A lot of time and energy went into that design with the two column. But I only hope that anyways, I know we're going to make a decision later in November with when we see the new designs. But gee, I just hope one thing maybe could be included, a memorial wall at least. But however, if the public doesn't want that, then let's take a look at your designs and see what you come up. It's going to be interesting to see what you come up with, real, because if all those people are saying keep it as is, it was surprising to me. Anyways.
I mean, it's worth noting, just as a comment to that 49% supported that item, keep it as it is, restore it. 51% supported some alternative, right? 51% supported doing something other than that. So I think it's it's pretty split when you look at it, actually, although there's no agreement on what the alternative is, but I'm sure our staff will consider that as they come back with some recommendations. Councillor Halpin.
Thank you, Mayor, and through you. Just on the issue of the parking, if we really care about active transportation and bikes and everything like that, we have to make room for that type of parking and thing, because we constantly say, oh, it's so important, we need to have active transport, we need to do this. And then here we are possibly shutting it out again, saying, well, we can do that as long as we don't take any car spots. And I do want to comment that especially in Southampton, of all towns, I see so many e-bikes. I see so many different electric methods of transportation like that. And I've talked to younger couples that basically use their e-bike all summer for grocery shopping and everything. And I think that we need to provide some parking for those things. If we're going to say that these issues are important, if we're going to say active transport is important, if we're going to say environmental issues are important, at some point, we got to act on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comments? Well, we're looking forward to what you come back with on the 25th of November, Rahul. This is, as has been pointed, this has actually been going on for a better part of a decade, working on downtown Southampton. And I have been part of several projects to try to do that, dating right back to 2014, so 10 years. It's very challenging, but we are going to proceed with reconstruction of High Street, not because it's a fun thing to do or because because we want to make it look nice. It's because it's vital infrastructure that has to get repaired at this point. And I have heard that from the public, and I just want to remake that we should be spending this money in other places because this is a vanity project or whatever. This is road reconstruction and infrastructure repair, and it has to be done. It's been waiting 10 years to be done. So in 2025, construction is going to proceed. And we're going to get a design here, and we're going to do that by the end of this year so we can tender it, because we've been delaying this thing now for, which should have been done 10 years ago, and now it needs to be done. So, so that's the plan. So you've heard the recommendation. I'll ask all in favor. That's carried. All right. So now we're moving on to 8.2.2 capital budget pre-approval and the Director of Corporate Services.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you to the rest of the council. There'll be 2 days of budget and business plan deliberation on November the 20th and 27th. Output from those meetings will be brought forward to the Committee of the Whole on December the 9th, and then it'll have final approval at a regular council meeting on January the 6th of 2025. Before you today is a pre-approval request for 4 selected capital projects. The purpose of the pre-approval is to allow for early tendering of work. Often by doing this, we're able to achieve better, more competitive results from people bidding on the projects. Also, it allows work to commence earlier in the year in order to get projects completed. The first of the 4 projects is the Shoreline Protection and Trail Repair Project. That is worth $870,000. And that project will be providing shore protection by relocating the trail further from the lake. This strategy was approved by council last year, and engineering is hoping to begin construction in the spring. And by doing that, they'll be able to avoid fish habitat time restrictions. And as I mentioned earlier, by early tendering, they're hoping to be able to achieve better pricing from the suppliers. The second project is Victoria Street from Spence to Morpeth, valued at $659,548. And this project will be replacing water and sewer mains, and in the process will be improving and addressing existing drainage issues. At the same time, it will also fix deteriorated road surfaces and will be providing a full urban cross-section, which will include the installation of bike lanes, sidewalks, and curb and gutters. Work will begin in the spring and will allow better coordination with the upcoming High Street project. And as with the prior project here again, the expectation is that we'll have more competitive bidding by going forward early in the season. The third project is a replacement of the 19B truck that will cost $292,000. This truck is a small garbage truck that hauls waste from all of our public parks and facilities. It is currently in poor condition and is scheduled for replacement. Because this is a specialized custom order, it takes about 6 months to deliver. And we're hoping for a May delivery in advance of the busy summer season. And as a result, the order would need to be placed in the next month. And the fourth and final project is a Jubilee Park Phase 1 construction at $500,000. This year, council approved the master plan for this project, and this project takes place over 2 years, and the design phase will begin in the fourth quarter of this year, with tendering ideally happening at the beginning of next year, and then construction in the spring. For all these 4 projects, the costs of these are contained within what was previously approved as the 24 business plan, and will be included in the 25 business plan with the remainder of the projects. The recommendation before you today is that council approve the capital budget pre-approval report totaling $2,321,548.
Thank you. So as recommended, that council approve the capital budget pre-approval report dated October 28, 2024, totaling $2,321,548. Questions or comments from members? We'll start with Halpin and work our way down.
Thank you, Mayor, and through you. Thanks for your report, Jim. How many of these things are coming from capital reserves?
All of the projects effectively run through capital reserves, but are funded through taxation and through the special levy that council approved last year.
Okay, so in other words, that money is there now, or it still needs the taxation money from 2025 as well?
It still needs the taxation money from 2025.
Okay, thank you.
We'll get Councilor Duhaime.
Yeah, thank you, through you, Mayor. Just a question for Jim. That 19 Bravo truck, that was part of the fleet management plan for the 10-year business plan last year?
I'm sorry, I didn't quite hear the question.
You want to repeat that, Councilor Duhaime?
Yeah, just a question, Jim, I was wondering if the 19 Bravo truck was part of the fleet management plan from last year that we approved, like looking forward in the 10-year span. That's all.
Yes, it was included in last year's plan.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, the Vice Deputy Mayor and then the Deputy Mayor.
Yep, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a couple of questions. The engineering seeks pre-approval for the shoreline protection, the trail repair, which is great that we're continuing that project. It needs to be done. Could you be specific about which is the new section?
I'll ask engineering to come forward.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you. This is the section which we identified as Reach B in our multi-year plan, what was presented, I think, in August last year. From the end of this year's section, the trail actually are separated, goes down,
Yeah.
and then again move up.
That's right.
To the concrete sidewalk.
Right.
That's the section.
That's fine.
Yeah.
I was thinking that, but thank you for that. This is a question for the Director of Community Services. And I think that I got excited when I saw the pre-budget approval for community services. I thought, oh, the Lamont Sports Park washroom is going to be tendered out for pre-budget approval. So I got excited about that. Then I read it was Jubilee Park, which I think is great that we're doing Jubilee Park, by the way, because we've started that project. How was it, Raj explained to me that, to me, with Lamont Sports Park, it's in the 10-year plan, it's due for next year to construct the washroom facility. It would be nice to have that open for the start of the season in May, but not possible probably now. But how did you determine that Jubilee Park, which is a great project, not that I'm not supporting, I am, but how did you determine that Jubilee Park would get done before Lamont Sports Park washroom?
Thank you for the question, and through you, Mr. Mayor. So when we looked at prioritization for any pre-approval projects, essentially we looked at time and how we can use the time if we could gain some time, I guess, with projects. And with Jubilee Park, part of the critical project is if we can get the design work done in 2024 and do the tendering, and we could hit the ground running in the spring of 2024. Whereas a park like Hallowell Park, we haven't asked for pre-approval budget because the majority of that work will happen in the fall. But with regards to Lamont Sports Park, we had some funds in the 24 budget to do some detailed design and options, and we've looked at those. We're very happy with the direction in which that is going. If we were to receive pre-approval tonight, I don't think that we'd see that we would advance that project any sooner than when it's currently scheduled.
That's fair. So just to follow up about Lamont Sports Park, if you don't mind. So the design work, is it underway then? And will it go to tender in the new year, or will that require budget approval in November, December for Lamont Sports Park still, even though it's in the 10-year plan? Is that something that is still going to require budget approval at budget time to proceed with the tender? And when do you see the tender going out?
Thank you for the question, and through you, Mr. Mayor. So we had an internal staff meeting a couple of weeks ago. I think I spoke to it when Kara delivered the Q3 report, and it was the week prior to that. And we're just looking at our design options and also the infrastructure that was required, whether it would be piping into the sanitary to concession 6 or septic system on the park itself. So we're exploring those options right now to see if we want to either manage the project in-house and construct on site with specifications that we've designed, or a custom build, something like that. So we're currently just looking at those options for us.
I know this is really not to do with pre-budget approval, but Lamont Sports Park washroom facility you see being built in 2025?
Correct.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, the Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. This is probably a question for engineering or public works. The pre-budget approval associated with Victoria Street. Victoria Street at the moment is under construction from Peel all the way across to Spence. And that's great to see. This pre-approval goes from Spence across to Morpeth. There's still a block and a half though to get to the water tower. Is the expectation that the Morpeth to Palmerston and then the half block on to the water tower, is that coming in the future? Because when you talk about a complete street situation with bike lanes, I'm assuming, I haven't gotten close because it's been a construction zone, but I'm assuming that bike lanes are going in the stretch that's being worked on right now. Because if that's the case, then it makes sense that those bike lanes get continued across one more block. But there's still another 2 blocks to get to High Street. So, do we have a plan that's going to see Victoria Street all the way across to at least the water tower for the water line, but all the way across to High Street for some of the other side of the road kind of additions, in particular bike lanes?
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Mayor. So actually, how we select a road that based on the underground infrastructure condition and also the road surface condition. The block that you are referring, we don't have any condition situation for underground infrastructure, and road condition for that section is also like in a fair shape. So based on that selection criteria, it's not actually in our plan. Having said that, we are now working on to make some adjustment on our 10-year business plan. So we don't know that how it will come, but, and the other section of your questions, yes, the undergoing construction section and the future section will have bike lanes and both sides sidewalk.
Just help me understand a little bit. If you're replacing the water main, which I think is going on in the Peel across to Morpeth section 2, and then you're going to replace the water main from Spence across to Morpeth, and a new water main came up Palmerston just a couple years ago and curved over to go to the standpipe to the water tower. if all of that water main, which I kind of think was probably installed at the same time, all of that got replaced, one block would still stay with, you're just going to connect to the existing water main to keep the water flowing in that area? Because I understand what you're saying, but it's just, wouldn't the pipes underneath the ground in that whole area be about the same age?
Thank you again, Mr. Mayor. What I will do, I will check back again and I will see the condition of water main. I don't have that information right now with me. I will get back to you on that one.
Okay, any other, Counselor Halpin?
Yes, through you, Mayor. I need clarification on this. So last council meeting, we were given a heads up about this is the potential for tax increases for the coming year and everything like that. Okay, and that was a really good report. I really appreciate it. For my clarity, will this pre-approval have any effect on what you sent us in the last meeting?
It does not have an effect on what we're sending out. You'll still see these included in the 225 business plan. Maybe to better answer your previous question, the spending for these, even though you're pre-approving it, the spending is not going to be happening on these 4 projects until next year. It's just allowing us to go out early so that we can get work started in the new year, and then we'll be paying invoices in the spring or throughout the end of next year. But it really doesn't change anything other than that we are kind of committing by sending out RFPs at this point in time on these particular projects. But out of this $2 million of projects, there's still another 20 million of, or another 18 million of other projects that are coming forward in 25.
Thank you.
Yeah, pre-approval requires us to commit to something for 2025 and to commit to paying for it. And so it sort of takes it off the table for consideration as part of the budget debate next month. But the plus side is we stand to save some money by doing this now. It's really a cost saving measure to do pre-approval, because we're likely, part of the reason we're doing this is we'll get better rates when we tender at this time of year. So it's generally a smart move money wise. So you've heard the recommendation. If there's nothing further, I'll ask all in favor. That's carried. Okay, so now we're moving on to 8.2.3, water wastewater generator projects update and the Director of Operations.
Thank you. Good evening, and through you, Your Worship. The purpose of this report is generally to create awareness for Council of the design direction that engineering and operations staff are taking in 2 standby generator replacement projects in an effort to keep project costs and risks minimized. So 2 locations are the Southampton low-lift pumping station at the west end of Bay Street, and all the town's drinking water is pumped through that low-lift pump station to the water treatment plant, and the Port Elgin Harbor Street sewage pump station at the end of Green Street, which pumps a large portion of Port Elgin's sewage to the Port Elgin wastewater treatment plant. At these sites, the existing generators are indoors, and photos are provided in the report of those sites and those generators. So we first looked at replacing those in their existing indoor location, but that ropes in a lot of HVAC and electrical upgrade requirements to meet current standards, which basically drove the cost of the project quite up. And there are other risks that are mentioned in the report as well. So staff proposed to place the new generators outdoors at locations shown on figure 1 and 2. Typically, this alternative is the way standby power is done nowadays in water and wastewater plant standby power selection. And for those of you that have been to the water treatment plant, there's a similar generator set there. It's outdoor gen set in an enclosure with muffling and insulation and the like. So the generators are put in a soundproof enclosure, insulated and muffled to reduce noise to hospital grade or residential grade standards. And we're pursuing that level of sound mitigation in the design, as well as intending to place the fencing or place the sets in aesthetically pleasing fencing. So in summary, replacing the generators as proposed in the report will allow the project to proceed on budget and also meet the objective of reliable standby power at these 2 very important water and wastewater facilities. Are there any questions?
Thank you. So the recommendation is the council receive the water wastewater generator projects update report for information. Questions or comments from members? Councillor Halpin.
Thank you, Mayor, and through you. I have noticed that more and more you see generators outside of the building and not inside of the building. So I think that anything that's saving us money is a good idea. So thank you for this report. I certainly support it.
Thank you. Further comments from members? Councillor Grace.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you. And I sent some questions to Matt, and thank you very much for sending me answers back there. One of my concerns was that I have a friend whose property is right beside the Bay Street pumping station. And I sent him this information, and I think generally he's okay with it, but when I went to look at the pictures after, I initially saw the pictures and now I can't see them, or at least I couldn't earlier. But for the Bay Street location, is the generator going to be on the side that's facing the sort of parking area?
No, we're proposing to put it on the south end of that building.
So facing out to the water and the beach? No,
Never
it'll be going right towards his place.
Yeah, it would be, there's some existing, I think, transformer type infrastructure in that location.
Okay.
So to be in that ballpark. Now, again, those are pretty preliminary locations. So if we wanted to get more offset and put it a little bit farther west, we could do so.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if it's worth chatting with him, because he's like right beside that. He says he can hear the generator in the pump house now sometimes. So
I'm hoping we could have better sound attenuation in the selection of sound mitigation that we make. Having said that, the reason for putting it on the south side was conduit, ease of connection to electrical and other things, but none of these were game changers in terms of layout, so we can look at that again.
yeah, I mean, there are a couple of residents who are right in that area, so thank you very much.
Councillor Matt.
Thank you. Through you quickly. How often do these generators run?
Okay, so they have to be tested monthly. They have to be load tested yearly, which is just a longer test, and can take the place of one of the monthly tests. And when you have an emergency, they will run for the duration of the emergency so that everyone has water. So.
Okay, further questions? I think it's going to be nice, particularly the Port Elgin location with the existing generator. It's kind of a mess the way it is now. It doesn't look real good, so it'll be nice to get it properly screened in and cleaned up. And I mean, it's the right approach to have it on the outside, but that doesn't mean it needs to look bad. And it sounds like this plan is going to fix that up. So it sounds like a good plan to me. So you've heard the recommendation. I'll ask all in favor. That's carried. All right, and then we're on to 8.2.4, the community donation policy update, and the clerk.
Thank you, through you, Mayor Charbonneau. This report provides council with an update on the requests received from local organizations for community donations. The report outlines the annual or ongoing contributions from the town to community organizations, plus the one-time contribution requests. Combined, the requests for consideration in the 2025 business plan are estimated at just over $400,000, $300,000 of which are these one-time contribution requests for the business plan. The allocation in the budget was for $25,000. Further, the report outlines a recommendation for 2025 for a reevaluation of the policy that reflects the community contributions being approved by council, or my apologies, being considered by council, and developing a policy framework that better aligns with the expectations of council and needs of the community. I welcome any questions council may have.
Thank you. So the recommendation is the council receive the community donation policy update report for information. Questions or comments? from members? I don't see any. So Councilor Maya?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you. I'll try and be quick. Our policy seems to be, we get requests, they get referred to staff, they come back to budget. We may or may not include them. We may give them some or part of what they asked for, but we don't have a standardized procedure that, from what I can see here, we don't follow a standardized procedure. I mean, I've been involved with a couple of different organizations that have allocations processes, and normally there's a standardized application form. The requesting parties outline what they want to do with the money. They outline their other sources of funding, all sorts of information. Some of them are really complicated, some are less complicated. And then there's a committee that sits down and says, here's our budget we're going to have for community support. Here's all of our requests. And you go through it, and then you come up with a recommendation for approval by the board. Do you ever see us going to a process similar to that? I mean, the United Way does it that way. I was on the Bruce Power Allocations Committee. Trillium does a similar process. It seems to me that, you know, a subset, maybe 2 or 3 counselors, 2 or 3 staff sit down once a year and say, here's all of our requests. Let's figure out who gets what.
Through you, Mayor Charbonneau. So the policy that was approved, it did include that sort of framework. However, unfortunately, due to some workload on the part of staff, unfortunately, we didn't get the request circulated out into the community within the timelines that would have provided that sort of analysis. However, there was no committee recommended in the policy or included in the policy. It would have come to council with sort of the outline similar to what you had suggested. With the reevaluation in 2025, that is something certainly that, if it's the direction of council, could be considered as part of the new policy that would be presented to council for consideration.
The Vice Deputy Mayor?
Quick question. The October 10th, 2023 council adopted the community relations policy. Can you send that out to us? So I should have requested that before the meeting tonight. I'd like to take a quick read.
Through you, Mayor Charbonneau, certainly that can be recirculated out to council.
I'd like to just recall what we actually approved a year ago. I can't quite remember how it reads.
Yeah, I guess my comment would be, I'm not really sure why we would redo it. Council passed a policy in 2023. It hasn't been implemented, so just implement it, and then we'll see how it works. I think there's that piece, and we should do that. And then the other piece is, how much money are you willing to commit to it, which is really what council needs to discuss, which is the piece that's missing, right? That we haven't, because what all those organizations that you mentioned, Councilor Mayette, have is a budget. They have a certain amount of money they can allocate out, and that's it. Whereas we receive requests, and we can just, in theory, just pay for them all, I guess, because we can raise taxes, but we don't want to do that. That's not the right way to do it. We should have a defined amount of money that we're willing to commit to third-party things like the one we heard tonight or others, and that's it. And then we divvy it up every year, and we have a process to do that. But so to me, let's implement the policy. I like, if staff didn't have the capacity in 2023, 24 to implement the policy, I'm not sure why we would want to ask them to use the capacity to write a new policy. That seems like we're spinning our wheels. Just implement the policy we approved in 2023. Let's not go back, go forward. And then as part of the 2025 budget discussion, let's talk about how much money we should commit to all of these things as a pool, and then use that to implement our policy. So that'd be my direction. I know that's not to the direction staff is introduced. This isn't a recommendation, it's an information report. So staff, I guess, can take that for what it's worth. But maybe my comment would be, if you're unsure about the policy, bring the policy back as it is and get council to review it again if you want, and we'll tell you whether we want to change it or not. But don't embark on a process to change the thing, because council was happy with it and we approved it.
Yep.
The Vice Deputy Mayor.
So I didn't have my mic off. Just as a follow-up, because the recommendations council received the community donation policy update. I guess, but not update, it's an update report. So it's really not we're not updating the policy tonight. So I think if you could send it out to us, Dawn, that would be helpful. I'd like to reread it and because that may help us, guide us through the budget process too. What it says in that policy, we should be following it. If we don't like the policy, then we should change it.
I guess it's just my view, like what the report reads, as a result of receiving requests beyond the scope of the policy, it's recommended the community donation policy be reevaluated in the first and second quarter. So staff is intending to spend time reevaluating this policy. And I don't see why. It hasn't been implemented. So implement it. And then once it's been implemented, we can evaluate whether it works. But don't spend time reevaluating it. Just put it in place. The council doesn't have problems with the policy. So, and if you do, then bring the policy back as written. Don't reevaluate it. Just bring it back, and we can tell you whether we like it or not. That would be my thought. But as I say, reports for information. Those are just my comments. Any other comments? Did you have a comment, the director?
Just what we were trying to point out with this is that with what we're including in the report, and you'll see during the budget deliberations, on the full day sessions in November, we're talking about community contribution. That is outside of what is in the current scope of the policy, and it'll certainly help that we'll send you out that policy in advance of that. And so coming out of those budget deliberations, if there's then, as the mayor pointed out, if there's an adjustment in the budget so that there is some money to actually hand out, that'll be a piece of it. And then there'll be a determination if we want to expand that policy to include more than just direct contributions, but include some indirect contributions that we are calling community contribution. And we can handle that during the budget deliberations.
Yeah, that sounds good. The Vice Deputy Mayor?
Quick question, Jim. The $400,000 allocation this year's budget that we're going to be considering, do you have any idea in last year's policy that we approved what the dollar amount was that's in that policy? Is it 100 grand, 200 grand? Is there a dollar number in there?
The budget contains $25,000.
In the policy, though, you say there's $400,000 being requested for this year. Was there a dollar amount in that policy?
The policy doesn't contain a dollar amount, but the business plan did, and the business plan contained $25,000 a year.
$25,000.
Yeah, but we've had these two large requests that came in that each individually is far exceeding the $25,000.
All right, so we've received the report and we'll discuss further during the budget. You all in favor of the recommendation? That's carried. Okay, so that's the end of the reports, and now we're on to communications. 7 items of communication there. Anybody wish to comment on any of those? The Deputy Mayor?
I would move the support of 8.4.6, which relates to encouraging the province to follow through on their conversation and perhaps a program to recycle non-alcoholic beverage containers via deposit and retrieval site. And, it represents the success of the alcoholic beverage containers process. So, it's a good one to support, in my opinion.
So the Deputy Mayor moves the town support of the town of Bradford, West Gwillimbury, Ontario Deposit Return Program resolution. Is there a seconder? Seconded by the Vice Deputy Mayor. Questions or comments? All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Any other comments? The Deputy Mayor?
The other one that I think is worthy of consideration is 8.4.7, which is very specific to rural roads and a safety program, and it's Good Roads is suggesting a particular path forward for the provincial government. I believe that one's worthy of support too.
Thank you. The Deputy Mayor moves support of the Good Roads Board of Directors resolution on the establishment of an Ontario Rural Road Safety Program. Is there a seconder? Councillor Davinsky, questions or comments? All in favor? That's carried. Anything else on these items? Of course, communications. I don't see any. We will dispense with communications by members or statements by members this evening. So we'll look for a mover and seconder to, what do? We adjourn the committee of the whole. Councillor Grace, Councillor Stack, all in favor? That's carried. Committee stands adjourned. Does anybody need a break or do you want to carry on here? Carry on. Okay. Give me half a sec just to switch over. All right, they all know I'm the mayor. Okay, so, all right. Are we ready? Let me know if we're ready. You're good to go? Okay. So I'd like to call to order this regular council meeting. Second item on the agenda is disclosure of pecuniary interest. Ask any member if you have one of those you'd like to declare at this time. Seeing none, of course, you can do that anytime if you need to. No additions, deletions, or amendments. We're on then to adoption of minutes. There's a resolution. The council adopt the minutes of the regular council meeting of October 15th, 2024, and note and file the minutes of the committee of the whole meeting of October 15, 2024 as presented. Is there a mover and seconder? Moved by Halpin, seconded by Davinsky. Questions or comments of those minutes? Seeing none, all in favor? That's carried. So we're all the way down then to reports of the committee of the whole and 8.1 committee report. The resolution is the council received the 2024 major initiatives, division and capital highlights Q3 update report for information. 2, the council received the urban tree canopy plan discussion paper report for information. 3, the council received the 2025 business plan, what to expect report for information. 4, that the second Southampton sidewalk plow be included as a high priority in the 2025 business plan for council consideration. 5, the council received the municipal solicitor position update report for information. Is there a mover and seconder? Moved by Grace, seconded by Stack. Questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? That is carried. Item 9, that is report of municipal officers and committees. 9.1 is a striking committee report of October 9th, 2024. Procedural bylaw update. There is a resolution that council adopt procedural bylaw as presented. Is there a mover and seconder? Moved by Grace, seconded by the deputy mayor. Questions or comments to that resolution? Councillor Grace.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Actually, I should not have moved this because there is a slight change that I'd like to have considered, and that's for section 14.6. And this is talking about the issue of new information being presented in the content of delegations and open forum. And I would ask for us to return to some of the wording in the original, in that the new information, I think originally was supposed, and I think this section may have been unintentionally omitted, which says that new information applies to individuals addressing council for subsequent times on the same topic. So I'm asking for that original language, that phrase, to be included back into that section.
Sure. I don't think there's any reason, and the clerk can correct me, but as the mover of the resolution, you can move an amendment to it, I think. Yeah, so we'll take that as a motion to amend from Councillor Grace. Is there a seconder for that? The Vice Deputy Mayor seconds that. Everyone understands that. Any questions or comments to the amendment before we vote on it? Seeing none, all in favor? That's carried. Any more comments to the resolution as amended, the Deputy Mayor?
Perhaps just for clarification, if one of the new items is this idea of a consent agenda item, perhaps the clerk could just make a comment about what that will include.
Certainly, through you, Mayor Charbonneau. So the idea with the consent agenda is for council to be able to dispose of relatively simple, shall we say, reports with one resolution as a whole. So if there's several items that say are for information, if there's something that is a more routine report, council consider them under one motion. However, if there is something that council has some clarifying questions on, it can get removed out of the consent agenda. All the other items would be still considered under one motion, but that other item can be considered separately.
Any further questions or comments? I guess it's just worth noting that the major change with this particular procedural bylaw revision is the elimination of the committee of the whole. Should this bylaw pass or this resolution pass this evening, council will no longer meet in committee of the whole as of January 1st, as of our first meeting in January, and that we will only meet in a council format, which is something that many municipalities are now doing. The County of Bruce is now doing it, and it works extremely well there, I can say. And it streamlines the process, simplifies the process, a lot less, going back and forth between meetings and process. So I think it'll be better for the public. From the public standpoint, I don't think it'll be a very noticeable change, but it will be much better, I think, from a procedural standpoint for council and for staff. So it's a good change. The Vice Deputy Mayor.
Mine was just a comment, Mayor Charbonneau. I just want to thank Clerk Dawn for a whole lot of work she put into the updating of this procedural bylaw. It was a ton of work, and we sat through this with to the striking committee on 2 occasions, and she listened, and we discussed, and a lot of changes were made each time. And I just wanted to thank you, Don, for the great work you did on that, because it was a lot of work. So thank you. Yeah.
Agreed. Councillor Halpin.
Thank you, Mayor, and through you. Are there any other municipalities in Bruce County that are still using the committee of the whole?
The clerk.
Through you, Mayor Charbonneau, I believe that there are. I can provide council with further information on an exact count if you would like, but at this point, I don't have those numbers.
Well, that's okay. Previously, when I was on council in a different municipality, we did not have the committee of the whole. We just had regular council. So I just got used to this. Now we're going to change again. Thank you.
That's the only thing, the only constant is change. Are there further questions? If not, then all in favor? That is carried. And so then we're on to the confirmatory bylaw. The resolution is the bylaw 86, 2024, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the Council of the Town of Saugeen Shores is hereby read a first, second, and third time and finally passed and sealed this 28th day of October, 2024. Mover and seconder, Mayette and Grace, all in favor? That is carried. And finally, adjournment. That this regular council meeting of October 28th, 2024 hereby adjourns at 10:13 p.m. Moved by Davinsky, seconded by the Deputy Mayor. All in favor. Council stands adjourned. Have a good evening.